Ladies and gentlemen, thank you. And I want to welcome everyone to the April 13th regular meeting of the Board of Commissioners. The board met in executive session on a real estate matter prior to the meeting. And we want to start with the roll call. Larry?
Mr. D'Amelio? Here. Mrs. Hall?
Here.
Mr. Siegel? Here. Mr. Heilman?
Here.
Mr. Holmes?
Here.
Mr. McGarrett?
Here.
Mr. Wexler? Here. Mr. Connell? Here. And Mr. Lee.
Here. Opening prayer by Father Nishan Battalion from the Armenian Martyrs Church.
Let us pray. Dear God, before beginning to consider this evening's agenda, we pause to thank you for this opportunity we have to work together for the common good. It's not always easy to discern what's best, so we ask you to give us patience and understanding with each other, even for those things that matter a lot to us. We thank you for the good things we enjoy, things that so many around our world are lacking, such as freedom from war, homes that we can maintain, clean water to drink, safe schools and neighborhoods, hope for the future, so many things. We remember those who struggle and ask you to help us keep our work here in perspective. Dear Lord, guide our commissioners, township employees, residents, and all who are part of Haverford Township. As we rejoice in the weather that has finally warmed up, show us how to work positively together and demonstrate the care that you want your creatures to show one another, the care that you show us as you sustain us. Amen.
Amen.
Thank you, Reverend. Chief Ellen.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
She's here. All right.
Jill.
You doing it as part of that thing tonight?
I'll do it.
Want to do it? Okay. We're going to do the township auditor update this evening. Will be done by Larry Holmes.
Our township auditor is out this evening celebrating the birth of his first grandchild. We're all very excited for Gary and wish him and his family success. I know that Gary went through the warrants and reviewed them and discussed with our finance director any questions he had. Those questions were answered to his satisfaction. I will later in the meeting be moving to approve those warrants and hope that we will approve them. That's all I have.
Thank you, Commissioner. And we will be moving on to Citizens Forum. Our first registered speaker is Mike Levin. Excuse me, Dr. Levin, I'm sorry.
Thank you. Before telling you about stormwater issues, I want to bring some things to your attention concerning the site that you're going to be putting your building on at Manoa and Darby Road. Be sure to get test borings on that site and don't chintz on the test borings. That's a fairly large site and it would be very worthwhile to have that information. It exists for very few places in Haverford. And particularly in Havertown. My recommendation is to a firm that I've had used for years, which is CVM Industries, CVM. They're very cooperative. Also, in construction of a project, I know that most of you are babes in the woods regarding this. It's very advisable on a large building to have a clerk of the works that is responsible for the ordering of materials and recognizing what comes in and its quality. The second is construction inspection, and although the architect usually likes to do this, I recommend a separate construction inspection which is independent. That's all I have to say about that. If you want more information, I'll tell you I have several years of experience in working with Ambrick Engineering on that when they were still in Philadelphia. I want to talk to you about stormwater issues. With the recent residential flooding that surfaced in some areas after the storm events of 2013. Old storm events were dredged up in 2011, 2009, 2004, and earlier. Unfortunately, there's very little documented information that has made its way to your file. It is almost impossible to tell who's affected and who hasn't been affected and how much they've been affected. The result was that I began to request amendments to the 2011 All-Hazard Mitigation Plan, going to media for it and finding my way through the horrible parking situation, which is near the toll building on any day. It seems the courthouse is in full business, but to do anything else in that area is almost impossible. However, I did talk to the director of environmental work there, and although she stonewalled pretty heavily and didn't apparently want to meet the public, subsequently I requested this of Miss Hill, Linda Hill, and she has invited me to make a presentation to her. Flood mitigation programs in specific have evolved within the past 2 decades, since about 1997, when the first UN report began to appear on climate, so that it now, an awareness has developed that human impact is proceeding at what appears to be an accelerated rate. And this has resulted in drought in the southwestern and western states, which have been accompanied by drawdowns in groundwater. Some of that groundwater is fossil groundwater that came down during the pluvial period 10,000 years ago. There's very little being added now. Populations are expanding in that area, and as a result, water is a very serious problem. You probably realize that this affects California heavily, and California has translated their water into a steady stream of produce to the eastern states. I don't think you realize how much that this depends upon water. Take one pistachio nut. How much water do you think that requires? It requires 3/4 of a gallon. One tomato, 3.5 gallons of water. So you're talking about tremendous amounts of water that are literally being sucked out of the ground, and they're not being replaced because the weather conditions over the Pacific do not produce the precipitation that lingers on in the snowpack on the Rocky Mountains. On the East Coast, we have a different situation. We have accelerated events of storm water as a consequence of particles within the air and warming of the environment. Warming of the air produces it will hold a greater amount of water. And in a great rush at certain times, such as in September of 2013, there was a flood of water, literally, that fell in Havertown, roughly 2.75 inches in 2 hours. Those are the events that changed the situation regarding stormwater. And as a consequence, flood insurance, flood assistance programs require supplemental information now. As comprehensive written reports. And it's very clear that all of the reporting has changed. So no longer is it a simple matter to go to a resource committee, say in the Department of Environmental Protection, and say, we have a couple of stormwater issues here. We'd like to introduce them into the all-hazard plan, as Will Wexler sat on that board a couple of years ago, along with our fire marshal. I took the time to go through the 2011 Stormwater All Hazards Report in detail and found that it was very general. No event that we had in Havertown qualified as being such a superior, worst event that it would rate more than about 50% on this scale. Consequently, the calculations are really necessary, and the calculations include a number of things, including the Manning formula for flows within a pipe or within a channel, and the rational formula for flows on land. Those are two absolutely essential. Whenever you say calculations, that's what you mean.
Yeah,
and you mean all of those characteristics.
We need to wrap it up, okay?
I
gave you 6 minutes.
I'm going to reach it very quickly.
Okay, let's do that.
applying this to, for example, one of the projects, your Woodmere Way, Ridgeway Road, Arlington Road, on which I live, situation, we find that there is no chronological mapping that has been produced, no piping report, just, oh, it's clear. Well, what's clear? Where is it clear? How large is that pipe? What does it look like? Where's the video? We don't have it. The stormwater inlets go back into the 50s. They do not have grates at the top. They are not designed to capture a great deal of stormwater. They should be replaced. They shouldn't be expanded. In fact, even with the expansion of stormwater grates, it's not likely that collecting stormwater is going to work.
Let's wrap it up, please.
Okay. In the current state of knowledge of stormwater flow in this watershed, this project has a great long way to go before a presentation to any granting agency is made, and is likely to be successful. Otherwise, it's going to come back. For a project in the $1.5 to $3 million range, there's enough doubt that it would be justifiably viewed as a viable project, as not as a viable project for the money, even assuming that the number of stormwater inlets would be included.
Okay,
Now,
I'm gonna have to
I want to point out one last thing.
Okay.
Regarding your other projects, Tunbridge Road, Winfield Drive, Juniper Road, Chatham Glen, Eagle Road, Pine Valley, Sunnybrook Lanes, Belmont Avenue, St. Mary's Road, Oakwood Road, they're all in the same boat. They don't have enough information to pass muster.
Thank you. Thank you very much.
You're going to spend $8 million, and you'll have to do it again. If we
Chad
keep it up.
Brooks?
Bring in the dogs.
I ask that we keep it to 3 minutes, please.
Good evening. I'm here tonight as your representative to the Friends of the Grange. I'm always amazed that talking to people who've lived here for a long time, they've never been to the Grange, never visited the Grange. It's a wonderful jewel for the township. In 1974, a decision was made to save that property, and it's wonderful we did. Americans are often accused of not having a memory of the past. There's groups in the world now actively trying to destroy the past. We have preserved it, and it's there for everyone to enjoy. The tours actually began last week, and I encourage you to, if you've never done it, do a tour. The house is enjoyable to go through. The guides are outstanding in their dedication and what they bring, the knowledge they bring to you. But if you don't want to do the house tours, just walk through the grounds. Spring is finally here, and the grounds are going to be just gorgeous over the next several weeks as everything comes into flower. There are, besides the tours, there's going to be an Arbor Day celebration on the 19th. There is a Cobbs Creek Cleanout Day on the 25th, and volunteers are certainly welcome for that at 9 to noon. I'm told that it's always interesting to go along the creek and see what's been deposited and what's been picked up, and they pick up a ton of trash. We're very lucky to have 2 Eagle Scout projects that are going to be working, but if you know someone who's going to be an Eagle Scout, keep the Grange in mind for one of your projects. May 7th will be very interesting. It's the annual membership meeting, but it's open to the public, and Nancy Webster is going to be speaking. And she's going to be speaking about William Penn, a man ahead of his time. And I'm told that she is outstanding, that she's a font of knowledge. It won't be a boring lecture. She's very interactive, and it'll be a lot of fun. There's going to be weddings at the Grange, and there's already was a wedding last week. There's weddings in May and June. If you know someone who's getting married, think of the Grange as a possible venue. There's going to be summer camps for kids in July and August. I have the program here, but it's available online. They're closing up quickly, but they're a lot of fun. The kids really enjoy it, and it's a great way. And finally, I'll just mention August 6th. It's Family Fun Night. I've gone to that. It's great for kids. There's a magician there. They get to see magic up front and close, and they have ice cream at the end. The kids really like it. I've taken children there, and they've had a wonderful time. The other part of the thing I want to talk about, though, in the last several board meetings that I've gone to, the big concern of the Grange people is that they're aging out. And they're really concerned that they could use some young blood. So if you know people as commissioners, if you know members of the public, if you know people who want to get involved with a tremendous, historic, valuable thing in the town, please encourage them to participate. There's a craft guild there. They have finally decided they can't do the attic treasures anymore. We through Fran McGarity, we do have a substitute for that, but it'd be good if people get involved in that. The guides would like to have some younger blood. They especially like to have young people as guides. So if you have a young person who's interested in history, they would love to have young people involved from the beginning. And the property is maintained by volunteers. The township does help, the township does things, but the day-to-day maintenance of the property is done by volunteers. So if we could get some young blood in there, that would be great. Thank you.
Thank you. Next is Gary Bogosian. I do not see Gary. Scott Lowe.
Good evening. I'm Scott Lowe. I'm a member of the Haverford Township Library Building Committee, and I've been talking to some of the folks on our committee and also in the library board, and they thought it would make sense for me to come up and say just a couple of words about some of the things we've been doing and some of the thoughts that are going through our heads at this point. The building committee has been working for several years trying to help the library board work through answering some of the questions associated with the facility that they have inherited. And I think we've done a pretty good job of evaluating those issues, and I think we're in a pretty good position to advise the library board as they go forward with the renovations to the existing building, or however they chose to, the approach they take. One of the things I wanted to say was that the building committee is 100% supportive of the decisions made by the library board, and we look forward to working with them as we go forward with this project. Some of the things that I think we've talked about lately about the project itself and the idea of using the existing facility is that really, in our minds, reflects the flavor of the township, the mood of the township. The last board meeting, building committee meeting we had, I was sitting in the committee room and I was looking out the window at the middle school and thinking what a great, really, project that's turned out to be. I mean, it's a beautiful building to begin with, and I think they've done a lot with it, and it's become kind of a showpiece, I think. And I think the library we have now has the same capability, the historic front end. I don't know if anybody has ever been to the second floor, but if you go to the second floor in the children's section, there are clerestory windows, and on a sunny day, that's really a beautiful space, and it's good that we're going to be able to use it, I think, as a library, really. The other thing is there's really nothing more green than saving a building as opposed to throwing one away. It's definitely the sustainable approach, and I think that's a good thing. And the last thing, and probably the most important thing with regard to the library, is it's in a great place. There couldn't be a better location, really at the heart of the community, in the residential areas, near the schools, walkable, very walkable. So from all those perspectives, I think this looks like a great opportunity for the library, and I know that I, as a member of the building committee, am very supportive. Thank you.
Mr. Lowe, can you give your address? You didn't give your address.
I'm sorry, 634 Valley View Road.
Okay. Thank you.
Cheryl Forsey-Grupp, 107 Landaff Road. I'm also speaking for the library, and I've come before you several times to talk about the value of the library as a community resource, as a community center, as a hub for life in Haverford Township. But I also want to talk a little bit about my own life, because I grew up in Cincinnati, Ohio, and I go back there every year for Christmas, and I go drive by my old house where I grew up 50 years ago, and I worked at a library, our local library, and it was a tiny little storefront in a strip shopping area that was maybe 5 minutes bike ride from my house. And that's where I grew up. That's where I spent my summers. But it is still a tiny little storefront in a strip shopping area, sandwiched between still the liquor store and a rundown jewelry store. It has never been renovated. It has not been expanded. But then again, the town where I grew up, it has not changed a bit. Not a bit. The school looks the same, the roads look the same, the houses look the same. I go across the town to another suburb of Cincinnati, and they've renovated their library. And their town is not like it was when I grew up. It is vibrant. It has new businesses. It has new houses. And I can't help but wonder if there's a correlation between the fact that my little tiny suburb did not invest in the library, and it is exactly the same, and the town next over has a better school system, a better library, a better business district, better restaurants. It is thriving. My home, my little suburb, is not. And so I would ask us, as we think about our library, how can we make sure, how can we think about that library as kind of a barometer for the health of our township? And if our library has not changed in 50 years, will we have changed at all? And we have, thank you so much, we needed that new township building. We need a new police department. Those are really important, but it was also said that the library is just as important. So I would ask you, as you think about all the plans for the library, whatever that may be, please support it to the very best of your abilities, because I think it really does represent the future of where we're going and what our potential is. And I think we're really on a cusp. So I hope we can use the library as a barometer for our future health. Thanks.
Okay. We'll start with agenda items. This is only agenda items. We'll start on this side, first row, second row, third row, fourth row. On this side, first row, second row, third row, and fourth row. Wow, it's going to be an easy night tonight.
Yeah.
All right, so we'll move on.
At 8, was it 8:35 or 7:35?
We'll move on to the rest of the agenda now. It's the approval of minutes.
Mr. Chairman,
Commissioner.
I'd like to make a motion to approve the regular meeting of March 9th, 2015.
What do you need?
Second.
Motion made and seconded. Any discussion? Please call the roll.
Mr. D'Amelio? Yes. Mrs. Hall?
Yes.
Mr. Siegel?
Yes.
Mr. Heilman?
Yes.
Mr. Holmes?
Yes.
Mr. McGarry?
Yes.
Mr. Wexler?
Yes.
Mr. Connell? Yes. Mr. Lee?
Yes. Approval of warrants.
Mr. President.
Commissioner.
Mr. President, I move we approve warrant number 4 of 2015 totaling $3,181,099.63, comprising the general and sewer fund payroll for March 12, 2015 in the amount of $630,234.77, the general and sewer fund payroll for March 26, 2015 in the amount of $612,255.64, the general fund disbursements, number 4 of 2015, in the amount of $1,378,257.53. Sewer fund disbursements, number 4 of 2015, in the amount of $125,370.72. The community development block grant fund disbursement, number 4 of 2015, in the amount of $40,973.34. Home grant fund disbursement number 4 of 2015 in the amount of $33,109.50. The capital projects fund disbursement number 4 of 2015 in the amount of $59,897.05. A credit card statement ending March 6th of 2015 in the amount of $1,991.59. A credit card statement ending March 27, 2015 in the amount of $2,360.50. The scheduled debt service payment on the Series 2014 ACH due on April 15th, 2015 in the amount of $108,857.73, and the scheduled debt service payment on Series 2013 of the ACH due April 15th, 2015 in the amount of $187,791.26.
Second.
Motion made and seconded. Any
Can I ask a
discussion?
question? Just, well, not so much a question, but can Commissioner Holmes explain to the public what that last two meant?
Commissioner Holmes is going to ask Township Manager Gentili to tell us what those debt service payments are.
I'm going to ask.
Our finance director, Amy
Wow.
Cuthbertson. Yeah, that's passing the buck.
Yeah.
Simply the scheduled semi-annual debt service payments that we make on those two bonds in particular.
So it's for the two bonds that we're paying back, right?
13 and 14, yes.
Right, as you recall, we had we did the bond issue in 13, and then we did a bond issue at the end of last year in 14, and these are we have semi-annual debt service payments. And these are,
This is the semi-annual one, right?
April.
yes. They're April and October, is that right?
Correct.
Okay, we did
And this is interest and principal.
get a second on that, right? Yeah, okay.
Yeah, I was the second.
Any other discussion?
As you know, Mr. President, our township auditor, although not here tonight, did review these with our township finance director, and any questions he had were answered to his satisfaction. He recommends, as do I, that we approve these warrants.
All right. Call the roll.
Mr. D'Amelio?
Yes.
Mrs. Hall?
Yes.
Mr. Siegel?
Yes.
Mr. Heilman?
Yes.
Mr. Holmes?
Yes.
Mr. McGarity?
Yes.
Mr. Wexler?
Yes.
Mr. Connell?
Yes.
And Mr. Oliva?
Yes. Number 6, Mr. Wexler.
Chairman, I move to authorize the township manager to enter into contract negotiations with KCBA for the provision of architectural and engineering services related to the design of a municipal services building in accordance with the scope of services outlined in the request for proposals of February 10th, 2015, and further subject to negotiations by the township staff with a maximum not to exceed $793,657, exclusive of lead certification fees and reimbursable costs.
Second.
Motion made and seconded. Any discussion? Please call the roll.
Mr. D'Amelio?
Yes.
Mrs. Hall?
Yes.
Mr. Siegel?
Yes.
Mr. Heilman?
Yes.
Mr. Holmes?
Yes.
Mr. McGarity?
Yes.
Mr. Wexler?
Yes.
Mr. Connell?
Yes.
And Mr. Oliva?
Yes. Number 7.
Library.
Library.
Need a minute or two to set the computer up.
Okay. Why don't we take a minute or two here? They have to set up for the library's presentation. So,
Fair. I mean, we had an executive session last week, which was an appropriate matter for executive session for us to meet with the 4 architects who were under consideration for the work of the township building, and obviously we just voted to appoint one at the recommendation of the steering committee and a number of our commissioners who were involved in that process. So all 4 proposals were, all of the presentations, and there were 7 of them, were all excellent. The 4 that were presented to the entire board were again, were all excellent. We had the luxury and unfortunately the difficult job of trying to choose among 4 very good ones, but it was the unanimous recommendation of all the folks that were involved in this process that we go with the folks we went with, and I think we're in good hands. I think we're on our way to 2 great buildings.
okay.
Mr. President? Yeah, I just want to acknowledge there was a steering committee that was created to assist the township and this board with regard to this.
And I think we would be remiss if we did not acknowledge the work of these individuals. They were architects, they're engineers. Some are present in the room. I'm just going to name them all. Scott Winger, John Marshall, Rob Fiermundo, Richard Kerr, Joe Celia, and Tony Marcassani. They put in they devoted countless hours. Commissioner Wexler and I were on the committee, but we were not involved in the recommendations or the final recommendations. We didn't think it was appropriate. But the amount of work that these gentlemen put in, the education that they provided, at least to me, was tremendous. And this was not an easy choice. We had 4 excellent candidates, and we probably could have just, flipped a 4-sided coin, and we wouldn't have had a problem. But I really want to commend these individuals. They devoted a significant amount of time, and their efforts deserve our appreciation. So I thank you all who are here.
Great. Yes.
No, it's in the third ward, it's by the 7-Eleven.
It's hard. It's a difficult decision. It's.
My name is Mary Shea. I live at 2608 Wendy Road, and I'm the president of the Board of Trustees of the Haverford Library. I also have with me today Christine Ferris, who you've met probably several times, and she's the director of the library, and Lee Casaccio from Casaccio U Architects, who has helped us over the years numerous times, most notably in the 2013 space utilization study that we did, and he's been helping us with this now as we made a determination on what we should do moving forward with the library. I have here a topic of the agenda to get you an idea of where we're going, and if I move along too slowly, then you'll be able to know where we are, so how much time I have left. We're going to talk about why we're here today. We're going to briefly touch on the recommendation. It's a spoiler alert there. We had many options that we considered, several different areas, and we're going to talk about them. And then we're going to talk about the details of our recommendation. We have a timeline that we put together and also have some actions in progress for what this recommendation is, and we have a conclusion. Also with this presentation, we have a lot of backup material and an eye chart that's kind of a schedule eye chart, but the commissioners, or if you'd like to see them later, we'll make that available. Okay, so Christine and I are going to share the presentation here, share the spotlight, but why we're here. Last fall, at September 8th, 2014, at the commissioners meeting, when the commissioners agreed to take a look and look at the options for the township building, which you just heard that they've designated an architect for. It was also made, besides the option that they put forth, that they would commit money for the library, and that amount is up there. So it was a real commit, saying that the library was as important as the township building and as the police station. So it was a vital asset for the township. We were told, the staff of the township and us, to take a look and evaluate options for a relocation or a renovation at the current site. As we looked at the library along with the township building, possibly, we hadn't looked at all the things that could be done for the library. So it was to go back and take another chance with a specific time frame in mind and report back with the recommendation. So that's why we're here today, is to report back with our recommendation. Overall, I think everybody on the commissioners here agreed that the library is important to the township. That's what we've been hearing. It's important to all age groups. It's a community center, a lifelong education. It's definitely a meeting place, and libraries are changing these days, and we want to change with the times. It is very valuable to the township. One of the things that we mostly as a board together agreed that we desired to provide a solution that was financially achievable and also meets the needs of the community.
Good evening, I'm Christine Farris, the library director. And as Mary suggested, the library is important to every age group in the township. In a recent Pew Internet Research report, 94% people said that having a public library improves the quality of life in a community. We heard that over and over again in September when we were discussing whether we would be included in the municipal services complex or to go on our own. The library, in addition to providing library materials of every kind through its programs, its meeting space, its resources, its community center, computers, and outreach, we have become a community center. The library in a community adds value and benefit to all residents, as I mentioned. In fact, our mission states that we provide exemplary access to the broadest possible range of resources, programs, and services that enhance and enrich lives. We have many concerns about our current building, or any library building, that we want to provide a safe, healthy, energy-efficient environment for every citizen of Haverford Township. With that knowledge comes the ability to do a building that is accessible for everyone in the community. And we have heard through community feedback how important it is. As you can see, the background goes back to 1988. There has been 27 years of township studies addressing the library's facility needs. Report after report says that the challenges are real. But in 2013, when a presentation was made to you, commissioners, about the condition of the library building, you considered the library to be included in the municipal services complex. Many community meetings and engineering studies precluded that from happening, and the library and township were asked to find a solution. But as you can see, in 1988, it was recommended that an adjacent residence be purchased to provide off-street parking. And we all know that our challenge is parking. Again, in 2011, and again in the municipal facility study, library off-street parking needed to be addressed.
So this is the quick spoiler. You know, our recommendation is to renovate at the current library site. Additional parking through acquisition of adjacent property. And through one particular property, we could have a total of 29 spaces. That doesn't seem like a lot, but if you're circling the block or if you're circling going in and out of that parking lot, it could make a difference, and it would make a difference, especially to children and mothers with children and a lot of people who participate in the programs there. If you take a look at this diagram, this is just, you know, a quick recommendation, but we're talking about renovation of the library according to the Casio study that we had looked at in 2013. And that's everything from the walls, the outside walls in. The additional parking would also create a buffer to the neighborhood, and that's basically what we're looking for a recommendation. But we are going to go into all the things that we did look at.
So, we did our due diligence. We, along with the township staff, looked at other sites that we could consider as a potential move for a new library. We looked at the Oakmont School at Darby and Eagle Road, and we also looked at the police and stadium site. The Oakmont School, let me go back, the Oakmont School and the Brookline School were properties that were unavailable from the school district of Haverford Township. The police and stadium site was not to be deemed as suitable for a library. The township building at Darby Road and Eagle Road was not suited for a 25 to 30,000 square foot library building with the cell tower and other rights of way and the additional parking that we would need. The Stratford Friends School, which is at Landella and Darby Road, we felt that there would be too many extensive renovations and not as ADA accessible as we would certainly like. The on-site parking would be limited, but we did work to investigate these sites as potential properties for the relocation of the library. The Grimes Center at St. Denis Lane and Campbell Avenue exceeds our anticipated funding, so that was not a site that we could consider.
As the township looked at the options for the municipal study, there were 4 particular options that they looked at for the library, mutually exclusive from the other buildings. And just to review, one was to renovate the existing, but just looking at MEP concerns and ADA accessibility. The second one included option 1, but also included the renovation according to the spatial utilization study of Cascio. The third option was to tear down the back end of the building, everything that was put together from the 70s, and rebuild, including a lower level parking and new library. The fourth was to look at an adjacent parcel, demolition and site work to create additional parking spaces. Another thing we looked at was the commercial property options at our existing site. So this diagram is an overview, and you can see that adjacent along Darby Road there are 6 commercial properties contiguous to the library. If we were to acquire those Darby Road sites, commercial properties 1 through 6, it would provide opportunities for the future expansion and improvements at the existing location. Just as an example, if we look for an option 1 for commercial buildings, and we were to take the first 2 properties, they're known as the Waybar building that are attached to the library, and use that for additional space. It could be used for 5,600 square foot of space. And looking at the next 4 buildings as parking spaces, they could be plus or minus approximately 21 additional spaces in addition to the 17 that we have. Another option with the commercial property options at our site was to use all of the commercial properties for parking, which would yield approximately 25 additional spaces, not a whole lot more. So if we were to look at this, these are potential options using the adjacent property if it was necessary for us to come and stay at our current location, given that there was no others. So here, here's the final score sheet. Here's the recommendation of the options that we put together for our existing site. Looking at option 1, as I said, it's already contained. It's part of the scope of option 2. So option 2, the complete renovation, taking a look at the mechanicals and also the renovation from the outside walls in is one of the major ones that we would select. That's giving a renovation to the library. Option 3 from the municipal options was just a little bit too much work and also exceeded the anticipated funding that we believe that we can be given from the township and raised on our own. And option number 4, the adjacent parking, was the other one that we selected. As I mentioned, parking is one of the major things that we hear at the current site. If we take a look at the commercial options, C1 and C2, it's not something that I would throw out, but given that we've bit off quite a bit with looking at option 2 and 4, we see those as opportunities for expansion. Basically, they could be expansion or improvements at the existing site if we look at a long-term vision. I mean, this isn't something that we want to just, do one time, but overall, the course of the town, as we look, 10, 15 years into the future, we should have our focus on something larger in that area. So here's basically the recommendation for the library, the renovation I mentioned before, taking a look at the renovation and the residential site, the acquisition and improvements in that area. And you can see the internals that we were talking about and also the additional parking and the landscaping that we could provide there. the landscaping. Here's a recommendation of just examples of parking buffer lot. This isn't exactly what would happen, but the possibilities for effective buffers deal with earth berms, highlight, headlight screening, landscaping, beautifying the neighborhood, some fencing, actually a gardening kind of look that, improves the area around a parking lot.
I would also like to say that in looking at the recommended option and renovating at the current site and increasing parking with acquiring the residential site would be to conceal or screen the neighbors in the residential street. A landscape architect would be hired in order to accomplish this task to mask construction vehicles and also subsequent parked cars. It is very important that the library protect the look and the feel of the residential neighborhood, yet still addressing the need for the extra parking. The recommended option features and benefits. We have it broken down into a couple of different categories. The community focus is the most important thing, to provide the community space for library programs and township residents. We hear over and over again how important it is to have additional meeting space where people can get together and work on projects, have business meetings, but it's also important to have a user-friendly environment for every age and ability. An ability, that's the most important thing to us, with new ADA compliant features and also modern kitchen facilities that we could, it could lend itself well for programming and events. We have heard of the Free Library of Philadelphia, who will have a chef to come in and do cooking demonstrations. That is the new library. Quite frankly, you have to evolve, and that's what we have done and continue to do. And it's looking at different types of programs and events for your library. And of course, the improved parking. So how do we optimize the operations? It is obviously to provide a line of vision, which also lends itself to security, to utilize our space more effectively, in which it adds usable square footage to every level. State-of-the-art systems, mechanical, electrical, and plumbing systems, as well as security enhancements and the sustainable features. We feel it's very important to have natural light, to have energy conserving mechanical, electrical, and plumbing systems, but also to be a responsible steward of the existing facility and the site.
This is just a timeline of the major library project activities. As I said, there's an eye chart further on, but just to get a view or a feeling for the kind of sub-projects that could be considered within this. We do need, a nod from the commissioners to move ahead with what we're doing. One of the areas would be the parking expansion. Another is the library renovation. And funding is something that will have to be closely coordinated. Within funding, we have things with the Keystone Grant. We are starting up a capital campaign and disbursement of the township funds. I have a line there that basically talks about the application that will be made by the township in coordination with the library for the Keystone Grant. And as part of that, where the red line goes up, you can see it goes back down to the design and document for bids. That's important. That's key to what we're doing for a 2016 Keystone Grant. We would have to have the bids in place or know about what the prices were that we were going to include in our application there in order to get that 2016 grant. So that's key. And then as we work back from that, we would look at the design and the documentation beyond that, and then further ahead, I think the architect RFP process that we would engage in that you just finished or completed with for the current township building. Some major project activities, this is the way we're looking at it, and we're trying to get on board with some of it. So I think that for the parking expansion, we have investigated some options for purchase of properties and talked with real estate. For the library renovation, we are in the process of developing a new scope of work. That's in process, and identification of 3 different architect firms for the solicitation. Within the capital campaign, we have received proposals from 5 different firms, and we are currently interviewing 2 to make a selection. All of these are tied together. I mean, to do some of this stuff, we're going to expend some money, and we want to make sure that we're on the right track and have made the decision that this is the way we're going. With the Keystone Grant application, we've been reviewing the requirements, and I told you a little bit about it, but all of this is for the 2016 cycle. And actually, if we were to get that grant, the funding would come available at the very end of 2016, at the end of December. We've also had discussions with DCLS and county libraries. Many of our libraries in the Delaware County have received Keystone grants. Many of them are doing renovations, and it is amazing that we're on the same track. So we have a lot of helping hands. We have a lot of go-to for resources. And overall, I'd say that our preparation is underway. We're ready to take off if this is the way we're going. In conclusion, I don't want to give you a lot of words, but this is our logo. This is our Haverford Township Free Library logo. I don't know if you've noticed it, but you see it everywhere. It's on my badge. And basically, it's a 3-pronged approach here is what we're looking at. We think that we need to build something at the Mill and Darby Road or make a renovation there. One of the major things we need is parking, and then renovation from the outside walls in. So basically, that's what we're looking at.
That's right. And can I say your takeaway today is building on where we are today. So renovation is where we are. All right. Thank you.
Okay. That's it.
Mr. President?
Good.
Can we ask a couple
Yes.
questions?
Yes.
In the second or third slide, there was the 5.5 million, then there was 35% soft costs. And to my recollection, we did not put 35% soft costs when we committed 5.5 million. So I'm a little confused on that.
You could clarify that if you want. I believe that we did.
I thought it was 5.5 million overall.
I thought it was.
That's what I thought it was.
And I thought it was 5.5.
Right.
Yes.
That's what we voted.
Actually, what I remember is Mr. Holmes saying that we were going to commit $5 million to the library. We were going to give them $500,000 for emergency renovation or to match a Keystone grant.
Right.
And then as we went over those numbers and we're changing the resolution or changing whatever, that we talked about the money again. Was it 5 million? Was Casasio U's estimate 5.5, and we talked about soft cost. I remember Lori talking about soft cost, and I rewatched that. It's very interesting. It's a wonderful.
It was an
wonderful
interesting
show.
night. I do
It
remember
was
it being
interesting.
fascinating.
But that's what
I
it
just
says.
want to be clear because I may have to go back and watch it again myself.
I'll make
But
two of us.
I just want to be clear on exactly where we are on that. And
I was actually the one who asked for the additional 500 for the immediate repairs.
If you'd
and-
like to, if you would like to look at it, I would tell you that it's at
Is that the library?
2 hours and 30 minutes into the session. That's about where you pick that up at.
Commissioner Holmes, do you see something there that I'm just, trying to recall?
Yeah, let me, our minutes are what rule here.
Yes.
Commissioner Holmes made a motion which was seconded by Commissioner Hall to, one, make immediate commitment now of $500,000 for immediate emergency repairs at the current site, so the library would be able to apply for a matching Keystone grant.
Right.
Commit $5 million for the reconstruction and renovation of the current building or build a new facility, but not at the proposed Darby Road site, and charge the staff with the task of locating a new location for the library or to renovate at the current location at the end of the construction period of new police township building.
Right.
So we amended option 1 to include $5 million for reconstruction of current library or a new facility, but not at the Darby Road site. Directed the staff to pursue various locations, include the current township building in that review, and add $500,000 immediately so they could apply for a matching Keystone grant. Grant total would be for the modified option 1, $24,650,000. That was obviously
That
all
was
three
with
buildings.
everything, yeah.
And then that was how it was
it
vote
is-
6-3 for option one. So I mean, we have $5 million, which we've committed to renovation or reconstruction of a new site. We have $500,000, which actually it was a follow-up question I want to ask about those emergency repairs. And then whatever we could get for a matching Keystone grant. So I talked.
Hopefully
I could talk a dog
35%.
off a meat truck. So I talked an awful lot at that meeting. I don't recall soft costs, and it certainly isn't in our minutes. I mean,
I don't see it.
35% of soft costs on $5 million is $1,750,000. Again, whenever we ultimately build this library, I'm expecting the township to spend what it committed. The township may very well commit more funds. That's something this board will have to consider. A question I'm going to ask is about the need for the $500,000 of emergency repairs and where we are on those, and also what is the library's anticipated commitment for purposes of contribution and/or capital campaigns for this.
And may I just add the timeline of the application for the Keystone grant, if you could just refresh my memory on that, please.
Okay. So, yes.
The emergency repairs, what is the status of those? When you guys were in front of us
The
in
emergency
September.
repairs that we looked at $500,000
Right.
for the emergency repairs, or to be used as a matching piece for the Keystone grant. It wasn't just emergency repairs, it could have been any other thing to match for the Keystone grant. And given that we were making a decision whether we should stay here or look at another place, we have not made any repairs. Just prior to that, as we looked at it, the township and the library, we looked at things that we took care of, emergencies for the water in the basement and the electrical issues that were at hand. There's still all of those P things that need to be looked at and revamped, but we haven't spent that
I remember
money.
distinct emergency issues. Have they been resolved?
They have been, yes.
What did
I'm
they
hearing,
cost?
I'm sorry, but I'm hearing conflicting, was it or was it not? Because it appears that it wasn't, and that's what it was intended for. Were the emergency repairs made? Did you spend some of the 500 or all of the 500,000?
The emergency repairs were done prior to the decision by the commissioners, and it was imminent danger at that time.
Okay.
And it was about $25,000 worth of repairs that were needed
So we committed 500,000, there was only 25,000.
at that particular time.
Well, yeah, let me clarify. The $500,000 that wasn't just to keep people from getting electrocuted in the basement. It was.
I saw, and I agree.
Yeah, it was to it was to modernize that building, whether that building went on to remain the library or whether we were going to ultimately sell that building to somebody else. There were repairs that people thought there were capital needs in that building that people said were immediate and that were $500,000, and we expected to spend those whether we moved out of this building or whether we stayed in this building. Your HVAC, you're converting to gas or whatever. I don't know. There were certain things you talked about that we anticipated doing whether or not the library moved, because we'd get that money back if you put that money into the library. Are they anywhere? Is there anything planned, any kind of capital, has there been any improvements to the building since we met in September?
Would we want to,
There have been improvements to the building, but not necessarily with that $500,000 or anything close to that. It was looked at as for improvements, but to my recollection, it was also used as a matching for a Keystone grant. All those systems will need to be replaced one way or the other, but given that we are taking a look at an internal renovation, it makes sense to upgrade a system such as a heating or a HVAC system as you look at the whole, if you're going to be, tearing down walls or changing the basic configuration.
So 2 questions I have. The electrical problem where the water was coming up, which I saw, which was a real problem, that's fixed?
Yes.
The oil tank that was leaking, is that fixed?
Yes, the oil tank has been repaired as well, correct.
So these repairs have been made. For instance, the oil tank has been repaired. If we were to take a look at this and renovate the library, we would definitely be looking at a new heating system. Not
Well, that's understood, but the money was made, I mean, the 500,000 was, I mean, that's one of the reasons why Commissioner Heilman was adamant about giving you that money to make those necessary repairs before you even considered, the $5 million for a new building. We wanted to get those repairs in, fixed. Anything that needed to be fixed, done, to make it safe.
That was my impression.
The building.
That's why I asked for it.
And they did,
So,
yeah.
yeah.
No, I'm saying
Lee, you look like you would want to say something. Did you have something you want to throw in there?
Before we do that, just, didn't you put in security lighting as well?
We've done some other things like that, but we haven't used the township's money for that. We used our own money.
Okay.
We have put in security lighting, emergency security lighting, for in the event that the electrical would go out, so that people could escape the building, to exit the building carefully. The other thing we've done is to install security cameras and also a PA system, so that, again, people would hear throughout every level of the library what is going on and need to evacuate immediately. So we have been making repairs mindful with security in mind, especially. Yes.
What about the elevator? I remember the elevator not working properly. Is that fixed?
Yes, the elevator does work. The elevator is not ADA compliant.
Right.
And an elevator is a major expense. It's just the elevator itself is, a new elevator is maybe like $600,000. And that would depend on when we be renovating.
Right. Well, I know it's not ADA compliant, but didn't you have problems with it?
Yeah.
You didn't have problems with that?
We had problems with it going to the basement where the water was.
Does it go down there now?
Oh, yes.
Not sinking?
What? Would you like to go?
It's not sinking? Hey, this sounds like you now, Larry. I sound like an attorney. Sorry.
You're a good student.
I've learned very well. I learned from the master.
Okay. Any other questions?
Yeah, I do.
Okay.
I do. I'm sorry.
But I will say that we did, you did talk about emergency repairs, and I think we've been diligent in making the library a safe place. But, I mean, you also did talk about using that as a match for the Keystone Grant. It was repairs or a match. And that's the direction that we looked at.
I don't remember it at all like that. And I'm looking
don't
at
either.
I'm looking at the minutes. And I just
I don't
as I understood, by committing $500,000 to the library could immediately apply for a Keystone Grant. That's how I understood
It
it.
cannot
exactly
apply
what you said,
immediate
Larry.
for a Keystone Grant. If you take a look at what the library can do applying for a Keystone Grant, as I mentioned, it's a 2016 Keystone Grant, and that can be applied for in the 2016 year. You can apply in the
What
early
happened to
part of.
2015?
There is no 2015. As we came
Anybody
here.
tell me that in September of 14?
I knew it,
Is that far out?
Yeah, we knew that.
But did we know we weren't going to spend our $500,000 before then?
I didn't know that.
I thought that we
I thought
needed
Not
the
what we-
money
that's
for
not
emergency
what-
repairs.
I
No.
thought it was going to go for
I
emergency.
thought it was
I
immediate.
thought that was for emergency repairs. But we knew
Right.
about the Keystone Grants. They're two separate things.
Right, and by committing that money, you qualified for the Keystone Grant. I mean,
Right.
by putting that 500 up there, you had it, whether you spend it
Right.
today or spend it a year from now.
You basically
Right, you had
need
to get the
to
project.
tell them what your project is. And up until this
Right.
point, we didn't have a defined project. It's pretty much you have to define what the project is. It
Right.
could be any number of things. It could be repairs if that's what, if you had it deemed. It could be a new elevator. It could be multiple things. It could be, part of building a new building or doing a capital campaign fund or a whole combination of that. But it does not happen until 2016.
Let's move to the capital campaign fund. Several slides refer to exceeding the funding. What do you think is the funding, and what do you anticipate the library is going to be able to spend out of its own existing funds, and what do you think the library can raise?
Well, it's hard to say, and a lot of that will depend on what the project was. But just for an answer, because you're looking for an answer, I think that the the Keystone grant, you have to have a $500,000 match is what we're looking for from the township. And then what do I think that the township could use, what the library could use on its own? I think that we do have some capital money, and there is about $200,000 that I believe that we could use. We've talked about it as a group. We've talked about it. And then how much could we raise? We have I told you that we were looking at hiring a consultant. But in my and I'm just, my estimation, if you take a look at what other libraries have earned in a capital campaign locally in the Delaware County area and the Radnor area, I would anticipate that we could earn $1 million. That's my first blush. We'll get more information if we employ a capital campaign consultant to work with us on the planning. But that is, part of a money outlay that we would have to be considering now this time period. That's what I'm saying. Some of this funding has to be coordinated with what the township can do, with what we have with the capital campaign, and what we would do for our own outlay of funds that we have in reserves.
Mr. Chairman, I still ask a question. Are you finished there? I'm sorry.
No, but I yield the floor to you.
I don't want you to think that this is picking on the library, because the police will tell you that I wasn't for a new building as well. Although I voted for an architect because I'd rather get the best bang for the buck if we're going to do anything. So my concerns were for both buildings. So I understand this right. You still have the $500,000, correct?
We don't ever have access.
We didn't give it to you yet?
No.
We have it.
Have that money set aside.
We have the money, but we haven't given it to
Right.
them. So they haven't needed it for repairs. Is that correct?
Correct.
Not needed it for emergency
You have not
repairs.
needed it. Okay. The capital program that Mr. Holmes was speaking about, do you currently have, or you still have $1 million in reserve? Did you have $1 million in reserve?
No.
You didn't?
No.
Am I crazy, or did I think that?
Well,
at
you
one
are
point-
crazy, but it's.
Well, thank you. Thank you, Commissioner.
I'll second that motion.
I don't know. I think that's a compliment from you.
I think what
Well, let's put it this way. Neither one of you is lonely.
I think you're the third one.
I
here.
think what
Right.
Commissioner D'Amelio is referring to is your last audit that the township received, and you recall what that may have been? So do you have, how much money do you actually have in reserve for the library? At one point, I do recall seeing a figure was close to $1 million, but I will tell you that I haven't seen it within the last year.
Would you be willing to show us your?
We could,
They have to.
yeah, sure, we could
Well,
do that.
but I'm saying, they're
That's every
just
year.
saying
We
no.
see it every
He's
year.
saying
Okay.
yes.
I'm sorry. Excuse me, Christine?
Yes, may I have our business manager, Donna,
Sure,
come
sure,
up
come on.
and speak to it?
Yeah.
Hi, my name's Donna Reeves. I'm the business manager for Haverford Township Free
We
Library.
can't hear you. I'm sorry, you're talking very low.
Okay.
Is it on?
That's on.
It's on, I'm just,
You're just a low speaker.
He's taller. He's
I
a low
talk
talker.
softly sometimes. so,
Carry a big stick, I bet, though.
Probably. So, my name's Donna Reeves. I'm the business manager for Haverford Township Free Library. To answer your question, we do have considered a reserve of $1 million, probably a little more than that. Our financial statements are public knowledge. The one that's coming out this year hopefully will be out within the next month, so you'll have access to that. You all get that every year. We sent it last year and all the previous years. To answer the question, I think, first of all, we haven't, I think it was answered, we have not gotten $500,000 yet. That was
Right.
pledged
Thank
to
you. He
us.
answered that.
So I don't want you to feel like we are sitting on any money.
No, and I appreciate it because he cleared that up, Larry.
We have had repairs done. Prior to your vote, as it was said, the emergency repairs with the water and the electricity in the basement was handled. There was an elevator issue that was taken care of. We have had emergency lighting put in place because we have a generator that did not work for many years. And it was actually cost effective to put in emergency lighting. We have had a security system put in and things like that. So there are all the imminent things that were in imminent danger or such, those have been handled. So
But just to answer the one question too about our reserve, I wanted to just say, our budget, what you're calling a reserve, and I understand why you are, it would cover our cost for probably about 6 months to a year if, of expenses, if our funds should, income should run out or something. So it's not, I understand that you are calling it a reserve, but it's...
Well, it is. I mean, there's no what other word.
But it's our,
Yeah, I get it.
Okay,
it's our
please,
fund balance.
not from the
Thank you
audience.
very
Thanks.
much.
Thanks,
Yeah,
Rich.
it's our fund balance, so it's operating. So, and we do have funds in an improvement fund that we have designated, which I'm sure they can talk to you about some more, and a capital campaign fund that the board has voted to have as seed money for a capital campaign. So
Where are you with, I remember this gentleman here, I forget his name, and I certainly apologize. Mr. Blackwell, I'm sorry, Mr. Blackwell, we meet so many people. Where are we with fundraising? I mean, have we become aggressive in trying to?
I'm going to let the director answer that question. Okay.
And the only reason why I asked that, before you answer that is.
Who are you asking?
Well, it doesn't matter.
I mean, were you talking to Mr. Blackwell?
Blackwell can answer it, or
No.
Christine
Blackwell
can
is
answer
not
it.
any
Mr.
longer on the
Blackwell
board.
is,
It's not.
Okay, but before you do that, the reason why I asked that is because Governor Wolf, his budget is unchanged from last year, so he's not providing more for the libraries. In fact, he calls for a $250,000 cut in funding to public libraries. So
It
that's
has
my.
been flat for the last 3 years.
And here's
actually.
another governor doing the same thing. So my concern is you're expanding and you're going to provide some wonderful, I guess, different programs, which are trying to keep up with the times, and I get that. My concern is those costs that are going to continue to rise. How are you going to deal with that? Because in the end, it could come back that you need more money from the township.
Well, thank you for the appropriation that the township awards to us every year. That is how we make
Right.
the programs, the materials, the services that we provide to every resident in this township. So it's with that appropriation, plus state funding, plus a small amount of county funding, that we can make all of this happen. You were talking about the reserves. They're operating, we have an operating reserve in case of an emergency that we have to close, and we would have to continue some services, pay bills, pay staff. So we do have that in reserve. We do have a book fund. We have a capital campaign fund. In the event that some major catastrophe would happen, we have a reserve for a book fund to replenish the books that would potentially be damaged or lost.
Lost, flood.
But up until now, the township covers your expenses for the year. Our not, I don't want to call it subsidy, the township.
Appropriation.
The township appropriation to the library runs the library, which is, and I regret now yielding the floor to Commissioner D'Amelio, because now he's going to whether or not the library should run. And it's always going to be a township cost to run a good library, no matter what we do or where we build it, okay? And that's, saying how's the library going to deal with it? The answer, Commissioner D'Amelio, how the library is going to deal with needing more money is they're going to ask us for money, and we're going to give it to them.
Are we?
Yeah.
Well, the appropriation presently is over $1 million.
Yeah.
Is that correct?
Yeah, what I mean is, it's just,
Larry?
the township is the principal, funder of the library. Now, they have these, now this is, you've not had a fire, you've not had a flood, you've not had something, other than the water in the basement. And I anticipate that either insurance or, once again, the township's going to handle something like that. But a move like reconstructing the library or building a new one somewhere is the kind of thing that we would expect a serious commitment out of the library to help us with. And that would either be with the funds they've accumulated over the years or with aggressive fundraising.
That's correct.
Now,
That's exactly what I'm talking about, Larry.
and that was my question. is about the fundraising. I'm not going to lie to you. I'm disappointed that it's April and you're talking to fundraisers.
That's my
as
point.
opposed to telling me in April that, you've gotten some free advice from fundraisers who want to do this job or free advice from people with fundraising experience. Because one of the appeals, I mean, look, I wear this on my sleeve. I wanted to build a new building, and I know full well how much a new building would cost. And I also think a new building is going to be a lot more attractive to donors than just fixing an old building. I also understand, we went through a lot of locations in the township, but there doesn't seem to be any available, which means now we have the tricky part of trying to put sizzle into reconstructing an old building as opposed to building something new from the ground up. But that is a crucial part of this thing. If your total budget is our $550 plus $500 from the state and another $200,000 from the library, this is going to fail. That can't be how we do this. We need $1 million or $2 million of fundraising, and we need the library to run that. We
Commissioner
cannot,
Holmes, that was my point. Thank you
as
for
a
bringing it up.
township.
Okay,
we
so-
can't fundraise as a township.
No,
you folks can.
But if you took a look, and you took a look at, the high-level kind of schedule I had there, one of the major pieces is a capital campaign. Now, you're disappointed that we haven't started that, but one of the areas that you have to do when you have a planning for a capital campaign is to work with the consultants and make a determination of what you are fundraising for. Are we fundraising for a new building at X amount of dollars? Are we fundraising for renovation of the current one? And that's the decision that hasn't taken place yet. To expend money for a capital campaign also as the upfront for the planning can be extensive. That's one of the things that we deal with. We had bids from 5 different groups, and they have a pretty big range. And if we looked at the one that we are leaning towards, it's a sizable amount of money that you wouldn't want to get started with and not be sure the avenue that you're going on. So I understand what you're coming from. I understand that you think that a lot should be done. On the other side, I think that we have been waiting for the go-ahead and waiting for it to make this decision and make it so that we have the committed funding. If it is $5 million plus $500,000, if it is the soft cost or not, there's a lot of things that we need to do with that, and we need to coordinate the release of funding from you, and also look at what we can do with a capital campaign. And we've looked at it realistically, but we need to start with the next steps, and that's where we're ready. We're perched and ready to go.
Yeah, they were charged with going out and looking for different sites and all, and that's part of the reason. I mean, that took a lot of time. I know, because I was dealing with Monica on it a lot, and I can tell you they put a lot of work into that, and there's only so much you can do when you're volunteers, and I know some of the people are paid, some are volunteers, but to hold them accountable for not having the fundraiser in place yet, I think is a little wrong when we're the ones who ask them to go out and look at other
The biggest disappointment for
spots.
me right now is attitude. If somebody tells me that they anticipate $1 million for this brand new library, I'm disappointed in that. That's disappointing to me. I went to a meeting and listened to members of this board talk with a great deal of excitement about what we were going to be able to raise and what we were going to be able to do, and put sizzle into this thing and have this and have this mean something. So look, I'm disappointed that we're not going to build it somewhere else, because I don't think I'm not in favor of Mill and Darby, but that seems to be where we need to end up, and I'm not going to stop this from happening. But if we're going to do that, we got to mean it, and we got to convince people. We got to convince donors. We got to convince people that this is a great idea, and this is.
But first, we have to tell them where we're doing it.
Yeah.
And that's a hard thing to do.
I don't agree with
is to
that.
go out and try to raise
It's not
money.
April 14th,
Yeah,
and we're just finding out now that it's being built there. Okay,
Right.
this
I
didn't
agree with
happen
you,
today.
Commissioner Holmes.
No, but they had till
Absolutely.
March 31st, and this is the first meeting.
Yeah, all right.
This is
Okay.
Mario, I'd like to ask a couple questions. How many neighbors have you contacted that you're talking about purchasing the adjacent property? How many have you contacted about this meeting tonight?
We are waiting to hear what the decision is from the group of commissioners before we do anything like that. Is
In other words,
it something that everyone wants to do? If it's something that, the commissioners vote on? No, right now, we will do that. We will talk to the neighbors if that is the decision we make.
But you didn't contact them about making your presentation tonight? Correct?
No, I did
No,
not
okay.
contact.
Second, with all your with all you did on the screen, can you actually spell out everything that you're talking about in financial cost?
We had a space utilization study for 2013. We took a look at that. That was kind of the basis for what we were looking at. We do have pretty low-level costs for that. However, just as that was an option, 2 years ago, we will take a look at, just as you had a concept, it was a concept, just as you took a look at a concept for the administration and the police building, that is the same place we are now. So where you're looking at to hire an architect and get to look at the detailed design and to look at a little bit clearer and actually get the bids and the prices, that is where we're going. So no, we don't have that information now because that is the next step.
Well, how about the purchase of the home at the Greenway there? What's the cost on that?
We would have to, if it was agreed upon.
You don't have a price, is that what you're telling me?
I'm telling you
Okay.
that I know what the comps are in the neighborhood, and I know that if it is agreed upon that we were to purchase any property, that we, the library, would negotiate with the owner to get a price.
Okay. Now, why didn't the library pursue the bank parking lot? Why didn't they go and talk to the owner of the bank?
Which bank?
Pardon?
Which bank?
Citizens Bank.
Well, I don't know that I was around when that was for sale, but I believe that the library was interested in building that bank building at some point in time. And I believe that the township was also interested in buying that. However, they didn't take the necessary steps. They didn't take a real estate.
Who didn't take? Who are you saying?
The township for their own, the school district for their own, or the library for their own. And so that was a quick turnaround. The owner was not interested in selling, and then he decided to sell.
Yeah, I was part of that. The township was interested in buying that property, and they were not interested in selling it. They were interested in leasing it, and the township doesn't get involved in leasing property. And so we stepped away from it, and then suddenly they sold it to the dentist.
Well, I understand that, but after they sold it to the owner down there, the orthodontist, we had talked, Gary Bogosian and I talked to the orthodontist, and he was interested in possibly renting spaces to us. But nothing ever followed from, I guess, either and the library or the township.
Goes and tell the library that? Did you tell anybody that?
We were told.
You can look into it.
I think the owner's a woman. I think it's a she.
What is it?
I think it's a she.
It is.
It's
A woman.
There's a woman that owns it.
She's a woman. Irrelevant.
She is a woman.
Well,
I'm trying to get that to him.
I am.
Wow. God. Okay, moving on.
Smartest thing this board said.
All right, we already got into, we give the $1 million a year to the library. And, as Larry Holmes mentioned about the fundraising, possibly if you could raise the money for the library, like an extra $1 million, maybe Mr. Gentili could help out Oakmont, who's been looking for a fire truck. So we have to look at other degrees of people who need money in the township, not just the library. And I'm not against you staying at Darby and Mill. Believe me, I'm not. I'm all for that. Okay? I am not for the purchase of that home. I think I've heard for 50 years that the library has a parking problem, but on the other hand, Ms. Farris told us that we're the busiest library in Delaware County. So if that be the case, where are they parking? Well, they're parking on the side streets and things like that.
You're absolutely right, but I have to ask you, if we are the busiest library in Delaware County, how much busier would we be if we had the parking? Have you gone there? Have you ever tried to park there? Have you circled around several times? Where do they go? They say, I circled around several times and I'm going someplace else. So we are doing a disservice to our community because we don't give them equal reign.
Well,
if you can walk there, you can get there. If you're the first 17 in, you're there. Other than that, there are a lot of parking spaces available and people do make do, but there are a lot of school students, there's a lot of school there, and it just would be better. Every study since 1988 and I'm sure that you were involved with many of them, said that we needed additional parking, and it certainly is the thing that we would benefit the most from. It's absolutely the most thing, and since I've been involved with the board, not that much, I don't know how many times that I have gone into the parking lot and kind of came out. I've talked to the patrons of the library, and they've actually cheered when they get a spot. You're like, yay, I got a spot. This is great. Isn't this wonderful? It would make a difference. It would make a difference to us. It would make a difference to the mothers. It would make a difference to the people who might have disabilities or are handicapped, or just anybody who needs to use and wants to access the programs in the library. It's just undeniable. I don't know why anybody would think that it's not.
Well, we understand what you're saying, but on the other hand, we have to represent the taxpayers also, and there's only a certain amount of money that we can spend on things.
I agree.
Okay.
You have a very difficult job in doling out what
And
makes sense.
Do you admit that we have a successful library, yes or no?
Yes, I do.
Okay, then we have a successful.
Do you admit that we have a successful library?
Well, sure, and I admit that sure there could be.
All right, let's. Are you?
Wait a minute, no, I'm not done, Mario.
Okay, go ahead.
Can I continue?
Yeah, sure.
Thank you. Basically, well, you mentioned about different things. What I've done myself, up at 11 Golf Road, we had a continuation, and of course the school has taken advantage of everything. We added 25 spots there. Right or wrong? Christine, do you know that or no? Or were they there when you came?
There were parking spaces already there.
Okay, well, when I became commissioner in 1992, we added the 25. We moved it back so they could add 25. Now, naturally, the teachers do use it in the daytime, and I'm sure a lot of your constituents use it at nighttime and in the afternoons when the teachers leave. Also, over on Strathmore Road, since you were asking me about what we've done and all, on Strathmore Road, it used to be no parking from 7 a.m. to 4 p.m. I had a couple senior citizens who told me they go to the library regularly, usually after 10 o'clock, and it's a shame we can't park there. So I changed it from 7 a.m. to 10 a.m. so they can park there. So there's a lot of parking there on Strathmore Road that the people use. Also, out on Mill Road, if you notice, we did add one additional spot there. There used to be two by the red light, now there is three. I don't know if you realize that or not, but we do. Okay, so I have done my share to help you with the parking, but...
I'm sure that over the years that you have done quite a lot to give more parking or have a parking space available to the constituency within the whole township. I think what we're saying here is what's really important is dedicated parking. It makes a difference if dedicated parking is available. No way that that you haven't looked and seen all the ways that you can go about making it better. But it would make sense if we had dedicated parking.
Well, I just asked that we spell everything out, the price of everything, that what you're talking about, the cost and all that, so that people understand what everybody, including the library, is asking and what these Board of Commissioners are voting on.
Well, are you finished, Jimmy? You finished?
Done? Are you done?
Yeah.
Okay. Go ahead, Commissioner Emilio.
Can we go back to the parking in that PowerPoint presentation you showed? How many additional parking spaces would you pick up?
29.
It was 29.
12.
29 total. No, if they, with the purchase.
With the purchase.
Purchase of the residents.
It would be 20.
Basically, what we had there.
12, and you'll have 29 spaces.
What we had on that diagram was 12. This is rough, and it's interesting. If you look back at all the presentations that Christine talked about from 1988, they're looking at that same parcel of land, and the actual parking numbers vary a little bit here and there. What happens is when you really get down to it and you take a look at a civil engineer and you look at how best you can supply parking there and get down to the nitty-gritty, the numbers could change a little bit more.
Right.
But that is the estimate, 12 additional.
So let me ask you a question. I mean, I've been there and I've seen a lot of senior citizens utilize the library. How are they getting there? I'm just curious. How do you think that they're getting there, the senior citizens? I mean, trying to think outside the box, are there programs or anything that we can do, maybe with the school district, to have a shuttle bus that would pick up people at certain points, so that if there isn't enough parking, I know it costs money somehow, but
I appreciate you looking out of the box, thinking outside of the box, and it's so interesting, the shuttle kind of concept. We actually did talk to Larry Gray about that. There are these options that you can do, these onesie twosies, and you can think about it, and that's fine. It's good. but the dedicated parking adjacent to the library is basically
Oh, I agree. I
where
think
we-
dedicated parking would be a lot better, but,
It's not that we haven't, or they haven't over the years.
Mr. D'Amelio?
Yes, sir.
Not to tie that, but I think it's important for you to know the township does pay salary service for senior citizens' transportation throughout the township. But we do contribute funds towards it. I know it's at least $5,000, if not $10,000 a year.
I think it was 10 that was in that thing you gave us
Yeah,
last
10.
year.
How does that work,
Last
Larry?
week.
Any senior citizen
Somebody
that
else
needs
asked that. How's it work?
transportation throughout the township can call the
County.
can you call who?
Kosovo.
county.
And where does it take them to?
Anywhere throughout.
Where they want to go?
Yeah, shopping.
Really? I never knew that.
It's a senior
Casino?
citizens program.
He wants
Yeah,
to know
no,
if
it
they can
doesn't
go to
take him to the
casino.
casinos,
Oh,
okay?
as long as it's in Chester.
Okay.
Parks?
Are we,
Go to slide 5.
are we complete here?
No, I just have
Or
a
you want to
couple
come back to a
questions.
slide? Okay.
Just want to look at slide 5. Is that, no, I'm sorry. It says 5 on my screen, but it's the diagram of the additional parking. You just went to it.
This commercial?
Keep going.
No, the other one.
Keep going. Keep going. Keep going.
I think it's the other way.
Yeah, I think it's the other
That
one.
one.
There you go.
Is that the best configuration for, I mean, is 12 the maximum amount of spaces that you think you can get out of that property acquisition? Lee?
I think I just said it might be a little bit more. There are other, taking a look at things with, diagonals and whatnot.
Thank you.
I think that Lee may be able to answer that question better.
There's probably a better configuration, Commissioner.
Okay.
It also gives some circulation, so you don't get one way.
Yeah, no, I'm obviously, my concern here is to get the most bang for the buck. I mean, it should be, one of the reasons why I'm talking about the importance of the library's fundraising here is there's some things the library is going to have to do, and some things that the township is going to have to do. Obviously, we've made a commitment to renovations, we've made a commitment to repairs, but the acquisition of property, that's a stickier issue. I mean, the library, that's one of the things that the library should be handling, and I just want to make sure, because even if it isn't our money, every dime you have to spend acquiring property is a dime you're going to need from us for the construction work or something like that. So it would be very important for us to see, you maximize the amount of parking you can get out of this space, because I agree with you entirely that there is no substitute for dedicated on-site go through an entrance, to get to dedicated library parking. No question about that. Parking on the streets, as many people as go to the library, there are just as many who don't, because the 5th or 6th time they tried unsuccessfully to park there, they just don't go, and they go to Lower Merion. So whatever frustrations I've expressed about where we are in the process, obviously, if the decision is to be here, we've just got to make sure we do the best thing here. And if the only expansion of parking we're talking about right now is just in that direction, I definitely need to see more for that, for the money you guys are going to have to spend to do that.
Okay, you want to, hold on a second. Are you done?
That's all I have for now.
Okay, Commissioner D'Amelio.
Oh, I don't mean to limit, but I do agree with you on exactly what you're saying, including with the parking. But to be clear, when the electrical issues and the flooding issues occurred, did the township pay for that? Am I correct in saying that we did that? Larry, did we pay for that?
Yes, we did.
But that was prior
this
board,
to this. This board, but I'm just saying.
That was
this
prior to
board-
us voting on.
Exactly, but this board did allocate that money, and
Yeah.
we voted for that in the general
Oh, yeah.
funds, and we voted to repair those issues.
Correct.
Am I
Right,
Larry?
which goes
Yes.
to the issue that even in an emergency, the township is going to pick
You didn't
this
vote.
up.
You didn't vote for those. They were repairs that I had to come up with out of our operating fund that was not budgeted for, but there were emergency repairs.
Okay,
that
so
needed
you
to be
may,
made.
thank you.
According
told
to
us
the
about them
agreement that we
afterwards.
have
Right.
with the township, yes.
Hold on a second. Commissioner Diamond, are you?
Yeah, I'm done.
You done? Commissioner Garrity?
Yeah. No, just out of curiosity, on number 7 here, library relocation renovations, there's no paperwork. Do you have anything for these presentations that we
Well,
can have?
It was emailed to you, so I know you don't get that. We can print you a copy, Jim. Okay? I'm sorry about that.
I also might like to add the $500,000 in emergency repairs. We don't know what is going to happen tomorrow. And if something that is an emergency happens, we will be asking the township for those funds. You know, we have an old building, and there's a lot of Band-Aids on that building. And, you know, we certainly can't address an elevator that could potentially cost $600,000 when we would be considering an entire renovation. So we don't want to do one thing at a time. We'd rather do, because it might be in another location.
I agree.
So, but when we're talking about putting Band-Aids on a mechanical system or plumbing issues, we don't know what's going to happen tomorrow. And so to have that available, they would be considered emergency repairs.
Why do we allocate?
But are there any things that can, I'm sorry, Dan, you've been trying to talk.
That's okay. But my perspective on the emergency repairs is exactly that. They were repairs that would allow the library to continue to operate until a determination was made as to what we were going to do. Therefore, to me, the prudent thing is to spend as little as possible on emergency repairs, and then that allocation could be reallocated to a better use, which would be to the reconstruction or building of a new library, because if you're going to make emergency repairs that 6 months later are going to be gutted, that's not an effective use of our money. But we had a building, and we've had numerous presentations that show that within 3 to 5 years, their central systems are going to collapse. And to answer the question about where do people park for the library with all the problems, the answer is Ludington, it's Bala-Cynwyd, it's Penwyn, and it's Broomall, because that's what I hear all the time. It's the perception is the reality. Without dedicated parking, people say there is no parking. They don't want to have to traipse to the library, drive around for 20 minutes, try to find a spot. That's what I have heard again and again. And the people in my ward, particularly those in the northern section, and Commissioner Heilman said it again and again, they go to Ludington. There's parking there, and it's easy, and you park right next to it or directly across the street.
And they recruit in my area. I mean, we get letters from Ludington asking us to join. I mean, it's, we're Bryn Mawr, so they figure that's where we should go.
Quite frankly, with a renovation,
All right,
we can create the sizzle. If you're looking for sizzle, we can create the sizzle with a renovation and bringing that library up to an exciting place to be. Absolutely.
Well, I think it's more the parking, and with me, it's the parking and also the fact, it's right there in Bryn Mawr, and it's, it's closer.
And I will also say that if we do not do anything about the parking issues and we're putting a renovation into our building, we're being negligent. We're doing a disservice to our community.
Okay.
I agree.
Commissioner Hall.
Well, I just wanted to try and wrap up, but if Lee has to, did you want to do something? Because I wanted to kind of conclude with the commissioners. Were you looking to speak? Okay. First of all, I'd like to say 2 really important things. The Board of Commissioners and the Library Board have come to a place that is a long time coming. This is all really, really good. And I appreciate all your hard work. I appreciate the Library Board. I appreciate this Board of Commissioners taking the time, which they took a lot of time. We've taken a lot of time over the last year plus to address the library. It is crucial to this community. I think all of us agree on that. What we now have to agree upon is how to move forward in a cohesive and responsible manner that works well for your board, our board, and the community so that we get the best possible product from what the decision is that you have made. And the decision is now that you're going to stay where you are, you're going to renovate. So what we need to do, and this board has to decide, what's the timeline for that? We know you need the Keystone Grant. We know that we need to apply for that. And we know that we need to start a fundraising project. So what we need to do is decide how we're going to move forward and what we're going to decide on tonight in terms of moving forward. Do we need to make a motion to, say that we're staying there and that we're going to renovate that site, and then allow the library board to come back to us with whether they're acquiring, it's the library board's plan that has to be put forth, and you have to give to us so that we can vote on that plan. You've given us the decision to stay, so what I would ask the board to do is, if you feel, Mr. President, you can guide me on this, we need to make a motion that the library will stay there and that they will move forward with the $5.5 million still in place, with the idea that they will fundraise and come back to us with a plan of what the total cost is going to be, whether that's acquiring property or not, and go from there.
Okay, we need to make a motion to add it to the agenda, is one, and then we can vote on that motion.
Well, let's see what.
Mary, I'm not ready for that until they come out with all the facts and figures. I mean, how can you vote on that?
We've already allocated
you're putting
the
the cart
money.
before the horse here. What Jane is saying is, she's saying we're reaffirming the $5.5 million. I
don't think we need
to the library.
We've already committed $5.5 million
Correct.
to the renovation of the existing building, but we told them to go out and look at alternate sites in the meantime.
We've already.
I think we've already voted on this.
There's nothing to vote
Right,
on.
so do we need to commit anything additionally to this site, or are we fine the way we are?
This board approved.
I'm just asking that.
Okay, the board approved the $5.5 million. Hold on a second.
Well, I don't think it's a bad idea for us tonight to just say that, consistent with our September 2014 decision, which
I don't
was
know why we have to do that.
$5.5 million to renovate the existing place
Or
to build a new building, now to say we've evaluated it and we're renovating.
Well, we did that.
That's all I'm asking.
Did that?
No,
There's
we,
no reason
hold on a
to do
second.
this
Wait,
again.
please, 1 second. We did not. We said in our September decision, said to either dedicate $5.5 million or look for another site. Here we're saying we're going to stay at this site.
It's for that renovation.
And it is for that renovation, and this money is going to be used for that renovation. That's the difference.
The wording in there did say,
Right. Did say
or put
or.
that money towards it. That's what
I think
you
Mr.
have there.
D'Amelio makes a valid point. We did approve the $5
Oh, yeah,
million.
no question about
Plus
that.
to renovate the existing structure upon the contingency by March 31st. By March 31st, which Mr. Connell pointed out was last week, to look at, and we tasked them to evaluate the other sites available in the township.
Right.
They came back and evaluated that. I read it as their conclusion is there's no other available sites, we have to renovate.
Correct.
So that confirms our decision of September.
Exactly.
I just want to be clear.
I think there's a need to vote again.
Okay, if we don't,
But I'll leave that to our solicitor.
Jim, could we,
I mean, it doesn't sound like we need to vote again. I mean, you already have done it.
all right.
okay, so if we're all comfortable, that's all, I just want to be clear,
Okay,
if
so the
we're
library
comfortable.
so now the library, you're going to move forward,
Yes, we are.
you're going to raise money, and you're going to come back with figures.
Approved it. Here it
When?
is. We approved it.
Oh, I know.
When are you coming back?
Not when you can get your figures together.
So, I have all out.
Based on the timeline that you have.
Based on the
Yeah.
timeline I have a schedule for some of that, but it's not go back and give you the exact detailed figures. And we can begin, and we'll know more about each piece that we're going to do. But for instance, we need to, find the architect, same as you did.
Right.
Get 3 more proposals. We need to do that. Okay.
Again, so what I'm saying to you is, you need to start that process.
Absolutely.
Okay.
We're ready.
Okay.
Can I just
And
ask
I
one more
think that's
question,
it.
a favor? Can you email me that presentation?
I
It's already
emailed
been
it to
emailed.
Larry.
Have it.
and Larry,
We have it already.
Yeah.
Forwarded at 7:47 this evening.
Yeah, 7:47 tonight. You got it at 7:47, Steve.
Tonight?
Hit send and
In your
receive up on the
inbox.
top.
All right.
Thank you very much. We really do appreciate it. Thank you, Mr. President.
Thank you.
Thank you, Board.
All right, moving on.
Larry, I don't have it. Hard work.
I'll send it to you.
I swear to God, I don't have it.
I don't have
Hold on,
Right.
hold on. I got it.
I don't have it either.
You don't have it either?
But, yeah, can we take 5 minutes? Let's,
Yeah.
I don't have
let's
it.
adjourn
I'll
for
send it
5
to you. I
minutes.
got it right here.
No, not adjourn. I never got it. We are back in session.
Yeah.
We're on number 8.
Okay, got it.
Number 8?
Number 8 on the agenda.
Number 8.
To adopt the second reading of ordinance P1, 2015 by amending Chapter 182 zoning, Section 105 zoning map to rezone Delaware County tax parcel numbers 22-25-136-000 and 22-25-135-000, and commonly known as 801 North Eagle Road and 805 North Eagle Road respectively, a legal description of which is set forth in this ordinance from R5 low to medium residential district to LIN light industrial district.
Second.
Motion made and seconded. Any discussion?
This is the second reading, which was approved last week, or last month.
Okay. Please call the roll.
Mr. D'Amelio, he's not here. Mrs. Hall?
Yes.
Mr. Siegel?
Yes.
Mr. Heilman?
Yes.
Mr. Holmes?
Yes.
Mr. McGarry's not in the room. Mr. Wexler?
Yes.
Mr. Connell?
Yes.
Mr. Oliva?
Yes. Number 9, ordinance number P4, 2015.
Mr. President.
Commissioner.
Mr. President, I move we adopt the first reading of ordinance P4, 2015, amending and supplementing ordinance number 1960, known as the General Laws of the Township of Haverford, adopted June 30, 1986, by amending the use provisions of the C2 Neighborhood Commercial District.
And we discussed this at length in the last...
Anybody second that?
Second.
Oh, I'm sorry.
We discussed this at the work session. This is really a housekeeping matter within our zoning, a quirk that a neighborhood commercial area that has homes and businesses does not have homes as a permitted use. So we are adding that to deal with a number of anomalous situations that have come to the township's attention and required individual homeowners who have lived by right in these neighborhoods for years have had to go and get relief at the zoning level in order to refinance homes or sell them or things like that. So it is adding residential homes to the C2 Neighborhood Commercial District to fix something that should have been there all along.
Okay. Any other discussion? Please call the roll.
Mr. D'Amelio? Yes.
Number 10.
Number
I just
9.
saw it. Thank you. Mrs. Hall?
Yes.
Mr. Siegel?
Yes.
Mr. Heilman?
Yes.
Mr. Holmes?
Yes.
Number,
Yeah, I wasn't here, Larry, so I abstain on this.
and that's number 9.
Mr. Wexler?
Yes.
Mr. Connell?
Yes.
And Mr. Oliva?
Yes. Number 10, ordinance number P5, 2015.
Motion to adopt the first reading of ordinance P5, 2015, amending and supplementing the general laws of the Township of Haverford, Chapter 182 zoning by reclassifying the zoning classification of certain properties known as Delaware County Folio Number 22-06-00335-00 from R4 low to medium density residential district to INS institutional district, and Delaware County Folio Numbers 22-03 00505-00, 22-03-00504-00, 22-03-00503-00, 22-03-00502-00, 22-03-00501-00, 22-03-00500-00, 22-03-00858-00 from INS Institutional District to R4 Low to Medium Density Residential District.
Second.
We got it. Jane has it. Mrs. Hall?
Motion made and seconded. Please call the roll.
Mr. D'Amelio? Yes. Mrs. Hall?
Yes.
Mr. Siegel?
Yes.
Mr. Heilman?
Yes.
Mr. Holmes?
Yes.
Mr. McGarity?
Yes.
Mr. Wexler?
Yes.
Mr. Connell?
Yes.
And Mr. Oliva?
Yes. Number 11, ordinance number P6, 2015.
Mr. Chairman, motion to adopt the second reading of ordinance number P6, 2015, further amending and supplementing Chapter 45 alarm systems.
Second.
All right. I'm sorry, Chris. Commissioner Connell, sorry.
And that's deleting Chapter 45 entirely and inserting new section. Right?
Yeah, we went over that in the work session. Okay, please call the roll.
Mr. D'Amelio? Yes. Mrs. Hall?
Yes.
Mr. Siegel?
Yes.
Mr. Heilman?
Yes.
Mr. Holmes?
Yes.
Mr. McGarity?
Yes.
Mr. Wexler?
Yes.
Mr. Connell?
Yes.
And Mr. Oliva?
Number 12, ordinance number P8, 2015.
Mr. Chairman, motion to adopt first reading of ordinance number P8, 2015, further amending and supplementing Chapter 95, garbage, rubbish, and refuse.
Second.
Motion made and seconded.
Mr. President, could I ask Mr. Gentili a quick question? On the garbage, refuse, recycling regulations, it does point out in here that it is, I guess, strongly recommended that you put your trash out at dusk, have it out before 6 a.m. Don't put it out before dusk and have it before 6 a.m. in the morning for pickup. So I've had some issues, particularly over the last, over the Easter weekend, where residents were calling me and saying that, and I know a lot of people were away for spring break. They were putting their garbage out on Friday night for pickup on Tuesday. And, you know, I mean, it was really bad. So what can we do? What should we do? Do you think we should send a reminder letter or voicemail or something throughout the year? I think the voicemails are very, very helpful. I really do.
Yeah,
But I think this should be a reminder, because I see people, when we've changed this, particularly over these holiday weekends, the snow, you did an excellent job, and we did get those emails out, but it's very upsetting to people if they have people coming in for the weekend and somebody puts their trash out on Friday night for a Tuesday morning pickup.
Sure. I agree. Majority of the residents in the community do comply, but we do have periodic offenders, that are repeat offenders. And it's handled through the codes department. We normally take a pretty aggressive approach towards that. We can continue to put it in newsletters through constant contact, and if the board sees fit, you know, we can, within the near future, do a reverse 911. But we try not to do that because it's really for emergency services.
Right.
We don't take advantage of it. We've really been very good, because what happens if you start sending messages
Yeah, that's true.
out, and then
They'll expect
they
it.
don't pay attention
Ignore
to it.
them.
But if it's a problem, we can certainly do that.
Okay.
Jane brings up a very good point. I've had that happen in my ward. So what happens, I mean, on a weekend, like you know, if somebody puts out trash Saturday, it's not being picked up till Tuesday, what do we do?
Somebody notifies the code department or the police
On
department.
a Saturday? Call the police?
Yeah.
And let the police know, and then they'll send somebody out from where?
Yep,
Codes?
and they'll communicate with the codes department via.
So you'll get out in a Celia mobile, you mean? He left. I tried to throw him a bone.
Okay, so it is written that you're not supposed to put the trash out. That's what I thought. It's in the code.
Yep, it's in our code. All right.
Okay, thanks.
It seems to me that
It does happen all the time.
it's really only an
can't
issue on a
speak.
couple holidays, right?
No, no.
The end.
It's not only the holidays.
No.
But I mean, that's the time where we're most concerned, is that people are traveling over
Happens all the
Thanksgiving, people are traveling.
I've seen it happen.
Happens
But on
regularly.
a short
Regularly.
weekend.
Yeah.
No, I know, but I'm talking about when it causes the most problems, okay? It's you know, it's when somebody goes away for Thanksgiving from Wednesday to Saturday, and they leave the stuff out for Friday pickup on Wednesday afternoon, and people are having Thanksgiving dinner in the family, and half the street has garbage cans on it. So it seems to me if we're gonna do any kind of township-wide, whether it's phones or whether it's sending reminders to folks, there seem to be a couple good times to do that. You know,
Right.
in December,
moments.
in April.
I'll agree with that, but I think,
in November before Thanksgiving.
but I still think it happens regularly enough that we need to do something to
Oh, yeah,
remind.
and again, you can call the police department if it's,
Yeah, but let's be proactive. Is there any way we
Yeah,
can
I may just send out an email to, you know, on my
send
email
emails out.
list.
put it in our newsletter,
In the
things like that.
letters?
Yeah,
Lori
actually,
and
I mean, the best
Lori can
place
put it
for
in
it is
next
the
newsletter.
township newsletter. You know, a page to remind folks of that. And if we've now done all these new regulations, and how new are these? I mean, this is brand, what are we changing?
Lori did a great job. She revised the entire thing to make us compliant for the first
Well,
time since
and I mean,
2007.
when's the next township scheduled newsletter to go out to everybody? Because we ought to advise people of this.
Well,
It's
the
in the
printer.
printer
in the
right
fall.
now.
That's
Yeah.
It has to be the next one.
At
It's at the
Haverford
printer.
Township Day.
So let's tell them the next one.
Okay,
Okay,
thank you.
Let's highlight it
All
on the
right.
website. And
please call
Yeah,
roll.
not a bad idea. Scroll up.
Hold on. Are you done? Okay, please call the roll.
Mr. D'Amelio?
Hey, when one of your constituents get $1,000 fine for this and screams and yells at you about this, you
I'm not,
won't
no, no, no,
regret
no, no. I want to make
that we
sure
had a
that you,
conversation
excuse me,
about
I'm
this.
sorry.
Take them.
I wanted to make sure that you were done so that we could continue. So if you needed to, if you had any more to say, you could. I'm not going to say the word, but I wasn't trying to be smart about it, okay?
And I didn't think you were.
I think we have, we put it on the local channel, point them to the website, highlight it on the website where you can click on it and find out what the regulation is. I think Ms. Hall makes a good point. I think you're going to have the problem now when people are going away for the weekends in the summer. They'll put it out Friday or Saturday morning, go down for the weekend and it's, it's a ripe time of year. It's getting warm again, so.
And it's unsightly, too.
Yep.
Okay.
Health hazard.
Is that all?
I believe Mr. D'Amelio is still a yes.
I'm sorry, yes.
Please call the roll.
Mrs. Hall?
This one. Yep. Next one, just.
Yes.
This is the trash. We have
The trash, you have to vote.
Trash.
Yeah.
This is about 10110B.
Mr. Siegel?
Yeah.
Yes.
Sorry to confuse
Oh, that's a
you.
good
It was on
one.
the next one.
Thanks.
All right, moving on.
Heilman?
Mr. Heil?
Yes.
Mr. Holmes?
Yes.
Mr. McGarity?
Yes.
Mr. Wexler?
Yes.
Had us on
Mr.
the
Connell?
edge of our seat there.
Yes.
And Mr. O'Leary?
Yes. Moving on. Number 13, ordinance number P9, 2015.
Mr. President, motion to adopt the first reading of ordinance number P9, 2015, amending and supplementing Chapter 119 nuisances by amending the following provisions and adding provisions for chronic nuisance property.
Second.
Motion made and seconded.
Where is this coming from?
Lori? Can you answer that? I'm sorry.
It's problems.
Chronic nuisance properties?
Properties.
We've had several properties. We have one in your ward.
I know.
Commissioner Oliva. Several properties. We have one in your ward. We have them
one in my
throughout the
ward, too.
township. Yes.
Amazing, there's one in every ward.
Two in my ward.
Where there are people
Nothing in the
who, they might be renters, they might be property owners. They don't play well with others. There's a continual maintenance, property maintenance, standard violations. Sometimes there's just loud music blasting.
Oh, I've had that.
Sometimes parties carrying on till
Sorry about
all
that.
hours chronically. And we worked with the police department and the solicitor's office, and actually Jim Halligan from Mr. Burns' office wrote the standard.
Okay.
Thank you.
Thank you, Lori.
I'm.
This is a brand new, this is an amendment.
It's there's an article that was added to the nuisance provisions.
Chapter 119.
Chapter 119 is the nuisance provisions, and we added Article 2. It starts at 119-9.
Lori, I'm sorry. What does this do now? Is it strengthening what we've had?
Yes, it does. It gives
And
the
what is it-
police additional.
So what doesn't it? What can the police do? I'm sorry.
Go ahead. What can the police do?
Additional teeth.
Well, it gives us the opportunity to take some civil enforcement action if the criminal enforcement action doesn't work. It gives the police some additional teeth besides the disorderly conduct provisions, and specifically provides that once you build up that there is a certain number of violations that has taken place with a property owner, then you can launch into this other process. It would include $1,000 per diem fines. It would allow for ultimately the collection of any costs that are levied against the property owner, including a lien. If you look at 119-13, it's a commencement of civil action at law or at equity. So it allows us to take a more aggressive enforcement action.
So if the police are called to a property, they can use their discretion as long as the residents comply and lower things and calm down, they're all right.
Right.
But if they come back the second time, I think there should be no second time. You come back the second time, they get fined.
Well,
this particular ordinance is a little more. Lori, why don't you explain it?
Long term, isn't it?
It's like a long term. It's more.
chronic,
it's not
it's
like
chronic
when the
nuisance.
police
It's
come
like-
over for a sound noise. This is chronic offenders. So we have to build a record, and then there's a civil action that we can that will take place.
if you look in
You all have 'em.
119-12, it talks about if a person
is fined if the person responsible for the property fails to respond to 3 issued non-traffic citations and the nuisance activity continues, the matter shall be referred to the township solicitor for civil enforcement action at law and/or equity. So it allows us to build up a case where we have somebody that we're out there all the time, and then take a civil enforcement action against that property owner.
And that's the gas station on Westchester Pike, too?
It's not just residential properties, it's all properties in Haverford Township.
Because that's a disgrace.
It's all properties.
Thank you.
Okey-doke. Please call the roll.
Mr. DeMille?
Yes.
Mrs. Hall?
Yes.
Mr. Siegel?
Yes.
Mr. Highland?
Yes.
Mr. Holmes?
Yes.
McGarry?
Yes.
Mr. Wexler?
Yes.
Mr. Connell?
Yes.
And Mr. Luther?
Yes. Number 14, ordinance number P10, 2015.
Mr. President, motion to adopt the first reading of ordinance number P10, 2015, authorizing traffic restrictions on the following highway. Sticker parking only on Ralston Avenue, south side from Belvedere Avenue to the dead end, the track bed by the YMCA there. Parking of commercial vehicle prohibited at all times on Martin Avenue, north side from Railroad Avenue to Lancaster Avenue.
That's correct.
Second.
Yep.
Have we fixed the definition of commercial vehicles in our code?
I knew that was coming.
I don't think so.
Has a tag on it that says commercial vehicle?
This is not,
No, it's a
Commercial
weight.
vehicles are defined under our ordinance.
Yes, they are.
As,
I
not
think
as
it's tonnage.
trucks. Anything that even has a sticker on the side of it is a commercial vehicle.
I think this was supposed to read 8,000 pounds or over, was my impression in talking with Sergeant Pedrosian.
Where is Ralston?
No,
that's,
I'm
it doesn't
talking
pertain to
on
Ralston.
The Martin
Where's Martin?
Avenue part.
That's you, right?
Yeah, that's between.
Hammer shop.
It's right by where the Preston Field is. Martin Avenue runs along that.
I mean, is your goal to stop trucks of a certain size?
The big tree truck that's been parked there constantly. Yeah.
So we're passing a law because of a tree truck.
It's humongous, and he's been doing it, and he's been asked to stop, and he keeps on doing it, and then he moves it down to the next block.
Commissioner,
And he parks it at Preston Field.
Well, here's Joe.
The current issue with
Stand up.
Is-
the current issue with the parking of the trucks up there is only half of the block was originally from Miller to Railroad. So what he's doing is just taking it and moving it just across the other side of the stop sign, which is still causing the issue up on the roadway.
You can't
It's
get a
very-
fire truck through there. You can't do anything.
Right, no, I'm
Yeah.
totally hip. I
Yeah.
mean, I'm
Yeah.
fine with that. All I'm
Yeah.
saying is that parking of, prohibiting any commercial vehicles is way more than you need to
It
do.
was supposed to be 8,000 pounds or
You
above,
want
I
to change it?
believe.
You want to amend that?
Understanding the original ordinance, that
Imagine,
the way it
can
was
we,
written is
can we amend
8,000
that to
pounds.
do 8,000 pound?
I'm sorry.
Yeah.
Would you
That's
take the amendment?
fine with me.
Okay. Who seconded? Who did the second?
Bill,
I accept.
can I bring
so
up
that's
something,
been added
please?
to 8,000 pounds?
Okay.
Go ahead.
Commissioner Wexler has brought this up many times. I mean, we have this problem throughout the township. I don't know why we're just not doing this across the board.
Keep moving it from block A to block
Block
B.
to block, this is getting ridiculous. We need to do it throughout the township. I have homes on Lincoln that are complaining about vehicles.
Mr. Siegel is looking at me laughing. We've talked about this already.
forever.
We've talked about
I know,
this about
but-
1,000 times, and what happens is we can't make a blanket ordinance for the whole township.
That's the problem.
I mean, we tried it.
This
Laurie-
was the only block that wasn't commercial,
So
you
we're
know.
going to do block to block?
Yeah.
Yeah,
That's the way it's.
There are streets that during the winter time that the plows can't get up.
Mm-hmm.
Because people, I mean, I don't, look, if you're going to park a commercial vehicle in the truck and you know it's snowing, then move the truck. Move it to some place where the plows can get up or emergency vehicles can get up. And they're not doing that.
You started parking it in Preston Field
No, I'm
parking
not talking,
lot.
I'm talking about my ward.
Yeah,
I've got the
no.
same problem in my ward. Residents complaining about it. The plows can't get up the street. Emergency vehicles can't get up the street because they won't move the vehicles. They won't move the commercial trucks. I mean, if you're going to do that, move them someplace to allow the plows and the emergency vehicles to get there. It's a safety hazard. it's mind-boggling because it's a safety hazard. That's the bottom line.
And you also have the problem that people pulling out of their driveway can't see if anybody's coming up the street. You can't see around the truck at all.
This is true.
So,
Okay.
it's a major problem.
I guess we're not looking at it again.
We
Sorry,
talked
Bill.
about it
Yeah,
already.
I think we have to look at it
No,
somehow.
you have to look at
Not
it, Steve,
tonight.
that
It's
every
gotta be-
neighborhood is different. You take
Exactly.
neighborhoods that have single-family homes, that's one area. A lot of neighborhoods with twin homes, a lot of those people are blue-collar workers who have commercial vehicles. So every neighborhood is different. Larry's in a neighborhood with a lot of commercial vehicles. I'm in a neighborhood with
So
that.
am I.
This is a neighborhood that
So
has a
I'm
lot of
just saying, you know, just,
But I have I have people who drive trucks who don't have a driveway and they have to park in the street, and if not, they're gonna have to move that truck. So there's, it's not just a
most of
blanket
these
that you
have-
can pull
What
over.
takes precedent then? I don't get it.
Well, actually, I mean, it's pretty simple what takes precedent. You got your snow emergency routes, which are established by the state. You've got whatever major roads I mean, our roads, the width of our roads determines how important they are for purposes of emergency vehicles. I mean, yes, every road needs to get an ambulance down it, but, you know, you're gonna have different parking restrictions on, you know, skinny little streets like you or I have in our wards versus the parking restrictions on a Darby road. And, you know, but a lot of our constituents own these trucks and need to put them somewhere.
I get that,
Yeah.
but
But where would they go to park them anyway? So now they got to buy a car to drive to their truck in another township.
I don't know, but
to-
some of them work for companies. They bring their company truck home. So maybe
But the ones
during
that
a
don't.
snowstorm, they don't do that. I mean, the more we limit it,
It's a common
the better
sense
it
thing,
is.
I understand that,
Yeah.
but there's cars that do it as well.
We have, if you look at Westgate Hills in my area, and Bill's a firefighter, he'll tell you,
Can't get a truck down.
you can't get trucks up there.
I mean, the problem in a lot of the streets in your ward is there's parking on both sides of the streets.
Forget it. You're not getting a big
I've taken
truck up
off
there.
my share of mirrors with a fire truck going down those streets or an ambulance, either one. Just no way around it.
Take calls tomorrow as to people who
Okay.
want new mirrors.
Right.
They call.
But Mr. D'Amelio, to the extent that that issue comes up, that you've got a particular street that does it, I would say, talk to the police and come to the board with an ordinance. I mean, Martin Avenue is clearly an issue. It's between that's the street right at the light at Good Counsel. Is that right?
No, that's Penn. That's Penn.
What's the next one? What's
Next
Martin?
one's Martin.
Martin's
Penn,
right
Penn
where the
already
camera
is no
shop
parking commercial
Okay.
vehicles.
You know, I can
and single-
remember.
It's one side of the street parking as well.
I can remember Jack McDonald when he was a commissioner, talking about snow removal, saying that, and I don't know if this was true or not. I remember this when I first became a commissioner, saying that if you had no place to put it, you could put it on your lawn to make the plows go by. Was that right, Jimmy?
not with Larry Gentili around.
Missing.
Not with Larry, right?
Right, Larry?
Yes.
Are we talking about trucks with 8,000?
I don't know why Larry.
You have to put it on a paved surface.
Yeah. Okay.
I-
Let's move on. We're getting off topic.
Jack would use his front end loader to move the car for him.
He would. Yeah,
He absolutely would. Call roll.
That's a problem. I don't know if
Mr.
we're
D'Amelio.
solving this. Yes.
Mrs. Hall.
Yes.
Mr. Siegel.
Yes.
Mr. Heim.
Yes.
Mr. Holmes.
This was amended, right? As
Yeah,
amended?
case by case.
Yes.
Yes.
Mr. McGarry.
Yes.
Mr. Wexler.
Yes.
Mr. Connell. Yes. Mr. Levy.
Yes. Number 15, resolution number 1974, 2015.
I guess that's me. Yeah, motion to adopt resolution 1974, 2015, authorizing the township manager to enter into an agreement with PennDOT for mowing of state highways.
Second.
Motion made and seconded. Please call the roll.
Mr. D'Amelio.
Yes.
Mrs. Hall.
Yes.
Mr. Siegel.
Yes.
Mr. Heilman.
Yes.
Mr. Holmes.
Yes.
Mr. McGarry.
Yes.
Mr. Wexler.
Yes.
Mr. Connell.
Yes.
And Mr. Levy.
Yes. Number 16, resolution number 1975, 2015.
Motion to adopt resolution number 1975-2015, designating April to be designated as Fair Housing Month, and that all employees and officers are directed to continue to promulgate fair housing objectives and continue to assist all persons who may fall within the scope of the Fair Housing Act.
Second.
Motion made and seconded. Please call the roll.
Mr. D'Amelio.
Yes.
Mrs. Hall.
Yes.
Mr. Siegel.
Yes.
Mr. Heilman.
Yes.
Mr. Holmes.
Yes.
Mr. McGarry.
Yes.
Mr. Wexler.
Yes.
Mr. Connell.
Yes.
And Mr. Levy.
Yes. Number 17, resolution number 1976, 2015. Commissioner Hall?
Mr. President, motion to adopt resolution number 1976-2015 that final allocations of funds for the 41st year Community Development Program and the 2015-2020 through 2020 consolidated plan are hereby approved, and that no changes are made to the citizen participation plan, and that the proper officers are hereby authorized to take such steps as may be necessary to implement the intent of this resolution.
Second.
I was going to say Mr. Holmes was going to second it. Give it to Dan.
Okay.
All right.
Mr. D'Amelio stepped out. Mrs. Hall?
Yes.
Mr. Siegel?
Yes.
Mr. Heilman?
Yes.
Mr. Holmes?
Yes.
Mr. McGarity?
Yes.
Mr. Wexler?
Yes.
Mr. Connell?
Yes.
Mr. Oliva?
Yes.
Yeah.
Number 18.
Mr. Chairman, I would like to make a motion to authorize the purchase of 2 stainless steel replacement dump bodies and hoists for trucks, number 32 and number 36, from the H.A. DeHart and Son, Thoroughfare, New Jersey, under the PA Co-Stars contract number 25-52 in the amount of $70,000.
Second.
Motion made and seconded. Please call the roll.
Mr. D'Amelio still stepped out. Mrs. Hall?
Yes.
Mr. Siegel?
Yes.
Mr. Heilman?
Yes.
Mr. Holmes?
Yes.
McGarity?
Yes.
Mr. Wexler?
Yes.
Mr. Connell?
Yes.
Mr. Oliva?
Yes.
Mr. Chairman, I have to defer again. I don't have anybody old enough in the Ninth Ward that feels that they can sit on the Senior Citizens Advisory Board yet. I'm up to over a dozen people so far.
I have as well. I talked to one tonight, and I was turned down here at the meeting.
Okay, and
I won't say who it was.
stepped out. So we're going to move right on to the continuation of the Citizens Forum for non-agenda items. Yep.
Yes.
Yeah, you can. Yeah.
Okay.
Come on.
You're up here.
You got 3 minutes.
Well, I want to take more, but don't worry. First, I'd like to say my name is Brad Tall. I live at 126 Strathmore Road, and I am elated to see everyone here, and I wish Mr. D'Amelio was here because he deserves some congratulations. You guys are working like a team. Okay? So, in an unusual boast that no one's here, unfortunately, and I don't mean no one, I'm going to cheer you. Somebody, because you guys worked pretty good tonight. And I want to tell you why. Because everybody's asking questions. Everybody's taking care to think before you spend your money. Because there was confusion, and a confused mind always says no when it comes to money and relationships. You always know you're in trouble when you look at your wife and you have to think about, or your husband, are you going to be married tomorrow? If you have to think about it, you have a problem. And the reason I say that is right now with the library, you had confusion about where $500,000 was going. They thought it was one way. Each and every one of you thought it was another way. We have a little problem with that in Iran and the United States right now. Thank God this is nothing like that. This is a solvable problem, very solvable, because each and every one of you knows that there's a confusion, and you've basically going to sit down and say, where's the money going? What are we going to spend it on? How we're going to spend it? Who's going to get it? And what we're going to do with it? And the reason I'm saying all this is because now we know the library's thinking one way, you're thinking another. That you're going to work out with time. Now that I've mentioned that, I want to compliment Mr. D'Amelio on his question of out of the box. So if I may, I've asked Mr. President to use the table. I'm going to move over and put these pieces of paper there. And I'm going to show you, put it down a little bit. This is the street. This is Darby Road. This is Mill. This is the library.
Use the microphone right here.
Well, you got to take it with you.
Oh, hello, microphone.
Yeah, Bill has the
Right
mic
behind you.
for you.
I'm going to make.
Here's a mic for you.
Oh, never done this. This will be Mill. This will be the library. This will be Darby Road. This will be the middle school, formerly the high school. And I actually have the yearbook from 1929. But this is the big parking lot.
Yeah, I was
Over
there.
right where this here is the big field. And I'm going to put this little phone here for that other building. Use the Bell and Bank now, the Citizens Bank now, whatever the heck it is. Thinking out of a box, and what you have to look at is where you're going to put the parking. I think, Mrs. Hall, we've pretty much certain that the library is going to stay where it is, relatively speaking. The idea is, what will happen if we tear down some buildings? How will that look to the neighborhood? I have a picture of Darby Road because, as I said to Mr. D'Amelio, I build model railroads, and I happen to be a contractor also. I'm old enough to remember, and none of you are, that Darby Road had a trolley going down. And it was a PCC trolley. And by the way, that was a commission trolley. And before all you smile, it looked like crap up until till they took the trolley away. Now, as much as I love public transportation, and I love trains, and I love the trolley, it just wasn't upkeep at all. And before that electrified trolley, it was a steam locomotive. The reason I say that is the aesthetics of removing a building causes a dramatic change. Right now, all the kids go to that crazy pizza shop. I'm not a real fan of their pizza. My kids were. But you'll change the whole dynamic of the street that has been there for a very long time, long before any of you or I moved into the neighborhood. My family's been here since about 1961, when Sue Ellen Drive, when I remember, was just a field. So if we go over here to that property where that gentleman is, and someone asked them, Mr. McGarity asked the lady over there, well, what plans, and have you spoken to them? Well, I haven't seen any of the property owners that live on this little street over here, and nobody's spoken to them. Which gets back to, are we living in a vacuum? And before you raise your hand, Mr. Siegel, and say, why? Is because you need to talk to the property owners. You need to talk to the people that live in the neighborhood. The library needs to talk to them. So you can get a consensus, just like you guys have come to a consensus after 6 months what you're going to do, or maybe a little more, 2 years, however long you've haggled over it, what it's going to look like, what the people are going to say, and if you do take down the house, is it going to affect the property values on the other houses? Are we going to lose tax revenue? Are we going to have pissed off owners? Are we going to, in the same way with you're talking about the trucks? Did anybody ever ask any of those truck drivers where they'll park their car? And as far as your trash, by the way, you're absolutely right. People leave it out. So yes, that causes aesthetic problems, as little as the trash cans are. So let's take a look over here. We got that big parking lot.
You have to wrap this up, okay?
You guys have lots of time.
Really?
And I'll go real fast. You have time of how you can put the parking. You've spoken to it, Mr. McGarity. You can change the times, puts people over on the parking lot in the school all summer long. When they're home, that open parking lot can be utilized. You also have other spaces. Maybe you can change between where that Citizens Bank used to be, now the orthodontist, or whatever that is.
Orthodox.
You can utilize part of where the school parking is there, donate that to the library, move the teachers somewhere else. What's the difference if the teachers walk from 2 blocks from one direction or 2 blocks from another direction? That's a whole row of parking that could be dedicated to the library, either at specified times or during the business day.
Okay.
So you have other solutions, and that's all I'm saying to you is look outside of your box, clearly take a picture from the top. I've taken too much time, but I appreciate it.
Okay.
And I hope you guys continue to work really hard as a team, because I'm really proud of my town. And thank you.
Okay. Thank you.
All right.
Thank you for the demonstration.
Good demonstration.
Anyone else? All right, we'll start with any new business. No new business?
I'm sorry, can I just give some information that's important to the board to know relating to, can I do this on the new business?
You can.
Okay. As everyone is well aware, I mean, the winter we've had was pretty dramatic and beat up our roads fairly good, well, most of the state roads. This board, as well as myself, have probably fielded hundreds of emails and phone calls relating to the potholes. I can assure you that every pothole on a township road has been repaired or been repaired within 24 hours. Unfortunately, we're still seeing major damage to the state roads, and I put several emails to the head of the PennDOT for Delaware County. Unfortunately, I've not received any response to my emails, but we did receive a phone call. PennDOT's task is overwhelming. They don't believe that they're going to be able to handle it alone, so they're asking the local townships to partner with them. I rush to make any decision on this. I'm fearful for us finding ourselves in a financial dilemma here. I first told PennDOT that I would need a letter of commitment that they would pay the township back penny for penny for the road materials as well as the time, because I'm not sure if we had enough manpower to be able to handle the task. And number two, that I'll be talking to Mr. Byrne, are we going to get a hold harmless agreement to release the township from any present or future liability as a result of the repairs? Because I have experienced litigation when I first came on for roads that we have not maintained, but we've did some work on prior and were named in lawsuits. So I believe the feeling is from, I can't speak for the other townships, but they're entering with caution as well. So that's just a quick update on the PennDOT repairs in the township.
Thank you, sir.
Could you prepare an email on that with wording that we could send out to our people that would be
Certainly.
Sure.
certain, like, okay by Jim standards?
Yes.
All right.
Yeah,
Okay.
I would like to see a response from them first. If they come back and say they would give us a hold harmless agreement and would commit to, 100% reimbursement, then I'll report back to the board. They said they'd have a response within a week or two.
I got to tell you, I went down to Maryland last week, and I used Waze as my GPS. And when we driving to the Maryland border, every other word you heard was pothole, pothole, pothole. You got to Maryland, there was nothing. Coming back, you knew when you hit the Pennsylvania state line because it was pothole, pothole, pothole. It was pretty amazing how bad our roads were compared to Maryland. And they got a lot of snow down there this year too.
All right.
So.
Okay. Other business, Commissioner D'Amelio.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I like your white beard. You look like you went up to the mountain.
Thank you. Thank you. I appreciate it.
That's right.
I was at the mountain, yes.
Going to get your staff. Flyers are out of the playoffs. That's a big problem. I hate that.
Didn't we
but
know that about?
What are you going to do?
I could make a hair joke, but I'm not going to.
Had a First Ward Committee meeting, constituent meeting, attended by Larry Gentili, the police, and Joe Celia. It was a very good meeting. I want to thank them again for coming and thanking the residents for coming. It's a very popular meeting. A lot of residents show up, bring up concerns, learn a few things. One of the things we talked about was a lot of fraud that's going on, a lot of phone calls that are being made from overseas, claiming that they're the IRS or they get on your computer. The police have been notified of that several times, or many times, and the police's recommendation, and correct me if I'm wrong, Lieutenant, is when you get those phone calls, they said let you guys know, correct?
Yes, if a lot of the numbers are spoofed, we're finding out, but yes, you can let us know and file a police report, or you can simply hang up on them once you realize that it's a fraud.
Yeah, please don't disseminate any information or private information. We think we've had that a couple of times. Some of the senior citizens, especially, that's happened to. So I really want you to remind, if you're talking to your residents, to remind them that don't take those phone calls. I want to thank the Westgate Hills Civic Association for the Easter Bunny coming to Westgate Park. It was very nice. That was well attended. Also, the Westgate Hills baseball for their opening day on Saturday, which they gave me a baseball. And when I threw the first pitch, Larry, I threw it about 10 feet over the kid's head. So very embarrassing. But, haven't thrown a baseball in probably 30 years.
Better than bouncing it up to him.
It didn't even bounce. It went way over his head. He looked at me like this. He went, what are you going to do?
Dave, the question I have is it that your arm's that strong, or was it your eyesight?
No, it's probably, I don't know what it was. It's not my eye. My eyesight's bad.
It's the legs that go.
What is the dealio with that D'Amelio?
I don't know. Finally, I want to thank also our volunteer firefighters that went out during the winter as well. I don't know if we did that. Just want to make sure we do that. They're volunteers and they go out in all kinds of snow and bad weather, ice and whatnot. But my last concern is the Getty gas station on Westchester Pike.
Looking good, Steve. Not looking.
It is unbelievably bad. when I first opened up, I didn't know what was going on, so I pulled in and I asked the gentleman there, and he said, we're open for business. And I said, well, how's anyone going to know that, number one? And number two, this is a disgrace. I mean, it's filthy. It looks like it's falling apart. And he said, oh, yeah, we're gonna paint it. That was, I don't know how many weeks ago. And I understand, I think Joe told me that have they been cited, Lori, for?
I know that we've issued an ordinance violation notice.
Well, can we do something? Can we be more aggressive? I mean, that's terrible in our neighborhood. It makes our neighborhood look awful. Everybody drives by that. It intersects almost all the wards around there. And you drive by and you see something like that. It's a disgrace. It's like Getty has no pride. They should not be allowed to do that. If they want one, I'm sure their executives wouldn't want something like that in their neighborhood. If that's what they think their product should look like, well, I wouldn't get gas there. So if we could do something about that to make it look a little more presentable, that would be nice. Thank you.
I would be surprised if they had any affiliation with Getty or if they were just using the old sign that was there. Wasn't it Getty before?
It was a Getty before, but Getty owned it, and Getty leases it out, from what I understand.
Yeah.
And what they're trying to do, Getty leased out the pumps, but not the bays. And I understand that they're trying to get the bays leased. That's separate.
Right.
It doesn't matter. It's just a disgrace.
I'll be happy to talk to both of you about that in executive session if you want, when we go further on this, before we make any other recommendations.
Hey, thanks a lot, solicitor. I appreciate that.
You're welcome.
That was solicitorese for shut up.
I got that.
Commissioner Hall.
You all set? I just wanted to invite the commissioners and anyone that's interested to the Haverford Township Civic Council meeting this Wednesday night in 2 days, April 15th. Registration's at 6:30 and 7 o'clock is the meeting. And this is where the Civic Council actually works with different groups throughout the community to decide on action priorities that they feel that they could get behind if a civic community wants to do something, some sort of improvement or take something on within their neighborhood. They can put it in front of the Civic Council and see if the Civic Council can lend any attention to that. One of the first things I did with the Civic Council was actually the SEPTA stations, and they did help me with that. This year, there's a couple things they're going to look at for an action priority, and one of them is facade improvements with businesses and how that could be kind of tackled, and maybe matching grant programs, and also with beautification of public spaces, getting some of the neighborhood associations to come together and maybe get volunteer groups such as Haverford Green to adopt different areas, including our train stations. So I'll be speaking about that on Wednesday evening. If any of the commissioners would like to come, that would be great. I would appreciate it. And that's all I have for tonight. Thank you.
Commissioner Siegel?
The only thing I have is just a reminder that on April 22nd, Commissioner Hall and I are holding a joint constituent meeting in this room beginning at 7 o'clock. We will have officials from the township and from the YMCA there. We've had a lot of interest in the meeting, so we are requesting that it be limited to residents of the 3rd and 4th wards only, so that they have their opportunity to present their questions and get answers. Thank you.
Commissioner Holman?
Yeah, I only have one thing, and it'll actually happen after the next commissioners meeting, but it's good to get it out there now. Coopertown Elementary School is having their 56th annual Highland Fling on May 17th from 3 p.m. to 7 p.m. Rain or shine, they're going to have moon bounces, food vendors, music, 3K run. So there's going to be silent auction, live auction. So anybody who can go out and support them, it'd be great. The funds are going to go to the Coopertown PTO. Their specific goal this year is to advance Coopertown's technology program by establishing a television studio within the school. Other elementary schools around do have them, in Radnor and that type of thing. So that's what they're trying to raise the money for. So if anybody can get out and support them on May 17th from 3 to 7, it'd be great. Thanks.
Commissioner Holmes.
Thank you, Mr. President. A project will be starting this summer in the 6th Ward through Community Development Block Grant funds. Approximately $230,000 will be spent on infrastructure and aesthetic repairs to County Line Road. And so I will be at our next meeting. I will announce a constituent meeting for the 6th Ward at Chestnut Walled School in May, just so I can talk about that and any other issues that any 6th Ward residents would like to talk about. And I thank Township Manager Gentili and the rest of his staff for putting together that project in the 6th Ward for us. So that's all I have. Thank you.
Okay, Commissioner McGarity.
Yes, a couple things. Number one, Rosie Kane and the Kevin Kane Foundation would like to thank everyone for their participation. It was another big year. Over 8,000 runners were there, so it was really something. The second thing, yesterday, Brookline had its pancake breakfast. That was very successful. And the third thing, on Saturday, Little League had their opening down on Caricon Drive, and big participation down there for that. And then the fourth thing, unfortunately, for anyone who knows John Lucas, who's on the Board of Commissioners in Marple, his brother passed away. And I got some details right here if anybody is interested in that. And my condolences go to John and his wife for the passing of his brother. And that's all I have.
Okay, Commissioner Wexler.
Congratulations to the Hilltop Little League. They have over 1,200 children participating at all levels, and including the Challenger League, so probably their largest year to date. Also, for the people in the Pope and Garden section, the tear down of the Piazza Honda is beginning this week. If you've been by, they have the straw piles and the sop-up mops protecting the site and spoiled drainage. But the building will start, the demolition of the buildings on the site will begin this week and continue on for the next several weeks, including the houses adjacent to the property that are part of the property. And also, I'd like to thank Mr. Gentili for coordinating with Aqua, people in the Rodmore, James, Claymore, Dill, and North Belfield Avenue. We've had a substantial amount of Aqua repair work this winter. Water mains being replaced, and a lot of temporary patching has caused a lot of potholes on those streets. And the township has been vigilant in getting those repaired. And then also, as the restoration begins, in the next 30 days, they have their restoration period and the paving that's required. Be assured that the township is monitoring and will follow our ordinance. And repaving at least half the street will have to be done on most of those streets, especially Rodmore. So, Larry, thank you for your work in the township and the inspectors there. That's all I have.
Commissioner Connell.
Yeah, I just want to echo Commissioner Wessler with Mr. Gentili, because the 8th Ward has had an awful lot with Aqua, and Manoa Road is now paved.
Unbelievable.
It's incredible, and it's day and night, and all the roads back in that section there. I do want to touch base on this very briefly. I know it's early, but for as long as I can remember, there has been a 4th of July at the Grange by the Penfield Civic Association. And year after year, we ask for volunteers, because the person who's doing it now has done it for several years, and it's time to pass the torch. But we keep putting out a notice, and nobody's answering. So we are going to do one more pamphlet drop through neighborhoods. But the thing is, if anybody is out there in the 8th Ward and out there in part of the 7th Ward that uses the Grange, please, young families, this tradition has been around for generations. Don't let it stop here. Somebody please contact either me or Commissioner McGarity so we can get together and put together a great traditional 4th of July like we do every year. Please contact us. Thank you.
Okay, and I just have one one thing to say, and I'm going to echo what Brad Toll had to say earlier this evening, and that is what a great job this board has done in moving forward on the library and dealing with the issues of the infrastructure in this township, with the police station and the municipal building and the library, the CREC, and all those pieces of the puzzle that have for so long have gone without being neglected. And now we're facing the challenges. We might not give you the answer that you want, but we're facing all the questions and moving forward. I'm really proud of this group because, you know, they've done a great job. We do have our differences of opinions sometimes, but we always come to the right conclusion, I believe, and everybody's doing it for the right reason. So thank you all. I appreciate what you do here.
Motion adjourned?
I will.
Second.
Okay, let's.